Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the February meeting of the Town of Poughkeepsie Zoning Board of Appeals. Would you please rise for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome everybody. For those of you that are new to the procedures of the ZBA, let me quickly review the way this evening's meeting was structured. It's divided into two halves. During the first half, we hold public hearings on each of the applications that are before us. And we'll do this in the order in which they're found in the agenda. A copy of the agenda is available in that little black tray that's at our council's desk. For each of the items, we'll ask the applicant to come forward and to be sworn in. All testimony before the ZBA must be sworn testimony. And then we'll ask the applicant to give us a very brief review. We've looked at the applications, we've gone on field trips to look at the properties, but the applicant should just tell us a little, just very briefly, what the application is about. At that point, the members of the board will have an opportunity to ask questions, gather further information. When every member of the board has had an opportunity to ask questions, the floor will be open to anybody from the public that wishes to speak about that application, but about that application only. And again, members of the public who wish to speak will have to be sworn in. When we've heard from the applicant, the board, and the members of the public, we'll close the public hearing and move on to the next item. When we've finished all of the items of the agenda, we'll then go back to the top of the order for the deliberation phase. During this part of the meeting, there'll be no further input from the public, but of course you're willing to stay and listen to the deliberations. Okay. The first item on tonight's agenda.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm sorry, but I need to recuse myself on items 5 and 8.
Okay. And in that case, our alternate, Phyllis Capone, will serve as a voting member. Okay. Well, and thank you for that reminder. The first item, Cafe Conlici, this application has been withdrawn at the request of the applicant. So item number 2, Vassar College, 120 Raymond Avenue. In this case, I'm told that the applicant has asked this matter to be adjourned. Since I've recused myself from this, I'll turn it over to Paul Leahy to conduct the...
Thank you. Then I'd make a motion to adjourn to the March 9th meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And one recusal?
Yes.
Aye. What?
Me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Back to you.
Okay. Okay. Item number 3, RS2 Holdings, LLC at 766 Main Street.
Good evening.
Good evening. If you'd each just state your name for the record.
Matt Day, Dace Dakosa Engineering.
Mark Day, Dace Engineering.
Okay.
Do you each swear or affirm the testimony you provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. You were here last month and gave us an overview of the project. And at the time, there was some uncertainty about exactly what variances were going to be required. So I guess without going through everything, you can kind of give us a quick overview and update.
Go ahead. Do it here.
As you know, the building is existing at 766 Main Street. It's currently vacant, was once an auto garage, and a while ago was the old Arlington Firehouse. The applicant would like to refit it for 4 residential units as well as retail space downstairs, with parking on site, as you see here, which we've gone over previously. That's pretty much the long and the short of it. Last, we were before the zoning board. 3 variances in total are required. From Ms. Tucker, the email on Wednesday, January 8th, there were 3 variances listed. Number 2, which pertains to the variance needed for the 3 second-floor units, was obtained last month. The remaining variances pertain to the first-floor apartment, which does not comply with the density requirement of the town center district. And the remaining variance pertains to the refuse enclosure along Lewis Avenue, which requires a variance. It has been moved from the frontage area of Lewis Avenue to the, pertaining to Lewis Avenue, the rear of the building, if you will, in the alleyway.
Okay. Right.
I don't have a record of any variances being granted last month. I think there was a discussion, and then the board simply adjourned.
You're right, I think we
Yeah.
brought it up, but we had to come back to amend for the refuse enclosure as well as the first one we
Okay.
discussed.
Just
Sorry.
making sure.
So there will be 3 variances that
Three.
we'll be acting on tonight.
Correct.
Okay, all right, very good. Christine, any questions?
No questions.
Paul?
What's the width of the alleyway?
It's about 15 feet that we own.
Okay, and how big is the refuse receptacle?
Oh, hang on. 3 foot by 6 foot?
And that's supposed to satisfy all the units?
Yes.
Okay, how frequent will refuse pickup be?
It's at least once a week, but if it needs to be at a greater frequency, they've agreed to do that.
Okay, and my recollection from last month, you said that the neighbor has use of that alleyway?
Correct.
Is that going to interfere with the pickup of the refuse?
No.
And how is that?
How is what, I'm sorry?
How is that not going to? I mean, they only use it after 9 o'clock, or they?
Right, they have access through that alleyway, but this, this'll, you'll still be able to get through there. Not with a vehicle, you couldn't before, though. Is that what you're asking me?
Is this the refuse receptacle that's going to be picked up by a truck?
Yes, but it can be wheeled out. They're gonna be in carts, if you will. Almost, like buckets with wheels on them, to be honest with you.
Like the regular residential single units?
Yes, and they'll be carted out front.
Okay, but they're 3 by 6?
Well, the box is 3 by 6.
Okay.
So,
So how many units will be in the box?
3 probably.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have.
Art?
No questions.
Okay, and you've cleared up mine. Okay, Larry?
No questions.
I have no
questions.
No questions.
No questions.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the application at 766 Main Street? All right, seeing none, if there are no further questions to the board, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recusals? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item 4, Haishi Sahidi, 8 Hinckley Place.
Good evening, all.
Okay, if you just state your name, please.
Business Sahiti.
Sir, do you swear or affirm the testimony you provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I swear.
Okay. You mind moving the microphone down a little bit, so?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, could you tell us a little bit about, I think you've recently acquired this property.
Yes.
And and what it is that you would like to do, and so why you need a variance.
So we recently purchased a property, and there was an existing garage. Before we did the closing, it came out as a violation for a carport. So we went back to the town, that there was more paperwork to it, that they said that the entire garage was built without a permit. So that's why now we're going back and forth with it.
Okay, so this, well, actually, according to what I've got in my packet here, it's a garage that is too close to the side yard line and the rear line, and then there's also a side deck.
It's a side, it's
Porch,
either a deck or
deck.
porch, yes.
Okay, the structure there.
Right. Now, if you see the garages, ours and the neighbors, if you're facing the garage on the right, we have the same distance from the property line. Now, the back garage, the back neighbor, we have the same distance there as well, which is 1.8 feet from the line. And from the side, at front on the right, it's 3.6 feet.
Okay. Now, we also have a survey that was conducted of the property at number 6. That would be your neighbor on the right, as you're facing.
Right.
Okay. And according to this survey, that garage is actually exactly on the property line.
On the boat.
Yeah.
Which looks like the garage was built in 1800s, and they didn't catch up to it until now.
Well,
That's,
it wasn't
That's
the
what
house
they-
the house was built in 1920. Okay.
we got a word from the town that the garage was built in 1800, and it was built without permit back then.
All right. Okay. Okay, then, okay, right, let's just put it this way. There's some discrepancies in the paperwork. And, okay. Do you have a survey of your property?
No, I don't, sir.
Isn't that a little unusual to buy a piece of property without a survey?
The property was bought on auction. So
And it-
when we went,
and-
yes,
At an auction?
yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. And when was this that you bought it?
October?
Of last year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay, Christine. Do you have any
No
questions?
questions for now.
Paul?
Well, not so much a question, but if there's some conflict between a survey that shows that, in fact, your garage is partly on the neighbor's property, then we can't grant a variance for that.
Right.
So it may behoove you to get your own survey to see which is more accurate.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So my suggestion, since there seems to be a conflict, is that you ask for an adjournment in order to obtain some survey to correct the problem,
Okay.
to see if there is a problem and then to correct it adequately. Is that
Right.
something you're able to do?
Sure, if that's the only choice we have, yeah, sure, no problem. The thing is that when we went back at the town, they said that the only problem that was there, or the only violation that was in the property was the carport or porch, whatever you want to call it, which is in the left side of the garage. And then we went back, we said, okay, well, we'll do whatever, we'll take the piece out, it's not a problem, we'll close that porch, we'll take that carport out. Then they came back and they said, well, no, the entire garage was built illegally. When you put a house, we put it because of the garage. It's a pretty good size of garage. And now for us to take the entire garage down, it's just,
Well, no one's asking you to take the entire garage down.
Right.
You're asking for a variance to make it
Right.
conform with the zoning code. In order to adequately do that, I think that you need a survey
Okay.
to show exactly how much, if any, variance that you need.
Okay, no problem.
Does that, everyone agree with that?
Definitely.
Yeah, and also, I mean, we noticed it for being 3+ feet off the property line, and if it's closer than that, we probably should renotice once we have the updated information, so that in case there's anyone who might have thought 3 feet is okay, if it's actually on the property line, that might change their opinion as to whether someone wants to come out and speak. So we should do that as well.
So is he in a violation? Is there some,
Once, as long as you're before the zoning board attempting to rectify the violation, typically the
Okay, so
zoning enforcement
rather
officer
than
will.
withdraw, he should just ask for an adjournment?
Yes.
Okay. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay. So how long do you think it would take you to get a survey? Do you want more than a month?
Probably a month. A little more than a month.
Okay.
It all
Because
depends how busy they are
you
this time
also
of year.
need to keep in mind that the submission date for the meeting is usually about 2 weeks in advance of the date of the meeting, so it would be, in order for you to be on next month's agenda, you'd have to have it to us in 2 weeks, which seems unlikely.
Right,
So
right,
what
right.
probably should happen is we should adjourn this until the April meeting, and then your submission date would be the middle of March-ish, which would give you about 5 weeks to 6 weeks. And I see that Mike's looking at his phone to give us the dates.
April 13th?
April 13th would be the meeting, and the submission deadline is?
Sonia, do you know?
March 27th.
Yeah, it'd be about right.
March 27th.
Okay.
So is that enough time?
Yes, sir.
And if it's not, for some reason, and you can't get it done by that time, you can always email or write to the board and ask for a further adjournment for that evening.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. Art, do you have anything?
I do have a question. Two questions. The fence, is that on the property? Is that your fence or the neighbor's fence?
I
the
believe it's
right of
our
the-
fence.
to the right of
Our
that.
fence,
That's
yes.
your fence. So-
And it's, I don't think it's on their property, because if you see it on the picture, I think we did attach some pictures to it.
You did.
The fence are right, like, I should say like 10 inches into the garage, so I don't think it's in their property.
But the survey will
Yeah.
help with that. The other question I have is, do you have any plans to try to divert the rainwater that's coming off the right side of the garage into your neighbor's yard? 'Cause that's-
Sure, we'll put gutters.
you- you-
That's
yeah,
not a
that's-
problem at
that's-
all. We'll
that's
put new
really something
gutters.
that's
Yeah, definitely.
not good for your neighbor. nor
Definitely
your
not.
garage.
No problem. We'll put, like I said, we are gonna put in new gutters and everything, and maybe new siding around it. We just want to figure out first what's going to happen with the garage
Okay, thank you.
before we do any work. You're welcome.
Okay, I was going to follow up on that. When we were out there, we didn't have a chance to really inspect the garage, but some of it is not in very good condition.
Definitely not.
I was wondering, might it not be easier just to take that old garage down and put up a new one?
The frame is good. What it needs, it just needs some. What it needs actually is a new siding, because if you go inside the slab and everything, the frame it's very solid. It's in a good condition. But siding, it's just falling apart.
Okay. Okay, Larry?
No questions.
Tony?
No questions.
James?
No questions.
Phyllis?
No, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the application at 8 Hinckley Place? Please come forward.
Can I add this to your paperwork that you already have?
Absolutely.
Pictures and whatnot, that would be good. Thank you.
Let me know if there's an extra.
Okay, if you just state your name into the microphone and be sworn in.
Janet Consiglio.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. I would like to oppose the variance of the existing garage at 8 Hinckley Place for several reasons. Your paper states that the garage is 3.6 feet from the side property line. That property line is 6 Hinckley Place, which is my property. 3.6 feet would be true if it was the original 192 square foot garage that is listing right now on the property tax map. However, that garage no longer exists. The 486-foot square garage that is there now was built on the property line. Therefore, it has no setback, and it has a 1-foot overhang from the roof. The garage was built in the early 1980s. I moved into my house in 1994, and I questioned how was it that that garage was allowed to be built on the property line. I began to search building records at the county office and found no building permit, no building inspections, no electrical inspections, and therefore there is no certificate of occupancy. I sent a letter to the town of Poughkeepsie September 1999 with the findings asking then for the garage to be removed for the reasons of no permit, no inspections, no CO, and no setback, which are all violations of town codes then and now. I got no response. The house was sold sometime in 2000. That homeowner had told me that the garage was grandfathered in. There is no such law in this case. That owner left the house about 2011, and the house went into foreclosure. During 2018, when the bank took over as owners of the property. September 2018, I contacted the preservation company who was taking care of all business for the bank and brought the matter of the garage to their attention. September and October of 2018, I spoke to Jay Baisley, Town of Poughkeepsie supervisor. He found no permit, no inspection, and no CO on file. October 2018, I met with Tim Sickles, Town of Poughkeepsie building inspector. He noted this is not a garage that was listed on the property tax map. He also found no records on file. He stated the garage is in bad shape, and he made note that the garage is not in compliance with town codes. April 2019, someone from the bank was taking pictures of the garage and told me that the bank was getting bids to have the garage removed. That did not happen, and once again, the house had been sold in November 2019. Because the garage is on my property line, it prevents me from expanding anything on that side of my property. Also, because of the overhang from the roof, all the rainwater and the snow melt sheds onto my property, creating a very wet, soggy area between this garage and mine, and at times of heavy rain, the inside of my garage does get wet. As mentioned, the garage needs repair, and because there is no setback, the repair would require somebody on my property. I feel very uncomfortable having somebody on my property, nor do I legally have to allow anybody on my property. This garage is not a brick building. The side is falling apart, leaving me to clean up, and the sill plate is rotting. If it was repaired, it would require future repairs. Once again, somebody would have to be on my property. I live in the town of Poughkeepsie, and because of the building codes, it prevents and protects my property from being invaded or me being inconvenienced. The whole reason for a setback is to repair and maintain your structure without having to burden your neighbor. I feel I should not have to bear the burden because this building does not have the proper setback. If this garage was removed and a new one built 3.6 feet from the property line, or at least the 3 feet that's required by town code, I would have no problem with a variance where 10 feet is required. If the variance being asked for tonight is granted for the existing garage, I will not only have the burden of watching the side of the garage fall apart, I will not have full use of my property, and I feel that this could also make my property less valuable and less desirable. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. This statement will become part of the record.
Okay, and you have
Yeah,
pictures of then and now.
yeah.
I do have a question now.
Yeah,
No,
okay.
no, you go.
Nope.
No, you go.
I'm not gonna go. Question for, I think, maybe for Mike or for Jim. The measurement starts from the edge of the garage or the edge of the roof line where it overhangs her property? I always thought that they'd measure from the furthest most point, which would be the edge of the roof line, correct?
It's really a question for Lizette, but I believe it's from the edge of the roof. There are certain projections that don't get counted, but I don't think an edge of a garage is one of them. But it's really a question that Lizette would have to look at for
I don't
us.
think over the property line would count in any case.
Right.
Because it's the overhangs are okay in a setback, if it's, part of your front yard, for example, but it's still on your property. This is an overhang that presumably is.
An
over the
encroachment.
property line, which I
Okay.
think is a different case.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I had an informal conversation with Lizette to try to straighten this out. And for purposes of the distance from a property line, the overhangs, the normal eaves on a building don't count. Okay, but that's the measurement from the property line. Okay, and when we were out, we measured, and the wall-to-wall distance between the two garages is 8 feet.
Okay.
So, and each of the overhangs on each are 10, 12 inches, something like that. So,
And other than speaking with the town, did you ever proceed with any civil action against any of the property owners?
No, sir.
Okay. That's all I have.
okay. Any other questions? Okay. Any other comments from any member of the public on 8 Hinckley Place? Okay. So what we will do is adjourn this to April 13th. And at that time, we will at least have a survey, so we will know where the line is. And then at that, depending on what that reveals, the board will then have to make,
You have a copy of my survey.
yes, yeah, that was 1994.
Right, well,
Right.
nothing's changed.
Yeah, well, I mean, the applicant has a right to
Oh, okay, I
to
understand.
create his own
Sure, of course.
survey. And, you know, hopefully there will be some agreement. But I think at this point, given that discrepancy, we first have to resolve that. That is something that, in principle, can be resolved. So let's do that first, and then we'll take whatever steps are necessary. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay, all right. So I move that we adjourn item number 4 to the April 13th meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, move to adjourn's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recusals? Okay. Item number 5, Roger and Sandra Lee Townsend, 21 Peckham Road. And Mr. Leahy will be recused on this. Good evening, folks. If you
Good
just
evening.
State your names into the microphone.
Sandra Lee Townsend.
Roger Townsend?
Do you each swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so just briefly, what's the project?
Okay, we're looking to build a new garage, so we're going to demo the existing, and we're applying for a 6-foot variance. Right now, the existing garage is sitting right on the property line, so we're going to end up moving that over 4 feet, so that's where the 6-foot would come in, and it'll be a smaller footprint than what's already there. So of course, we're going to have to put a slab in and all that. So there's no existing footings, and the existing garage is in bad shape, so it has to come down.
Okay. Okay. Christine, any questions?
No questions.
Art?
That's right. The question that I had, the garage is 6 foot from the property line as it stands now.
I'm sorry?
You're 6 foot, you're looking for 6 feet from the property line.
I'm looking for a 6-foot variance. Yeah, the existing garage is right on the property line
Oh, you
now.
want to- Okay. Is there a problem if you moved it back further from that property line?
Well, I'm moving it back and we're moving it over to the side.
Can you move it any further so you can not need the
Well,
variance?
I have a patio and a pool there, so
Okay.
that was the problem.
Okay. All right, Jim, I'm good.
Okay. I just want to clear something up. On the diagram, as I'm looking at it, you have the new garage 6 feet from the property line. And I think what you just said, it was going to be 4
It'll be
feet?
4 foot, so we needed a 6-foot variance, so, because you need 10 feet, correct?
Right.
So it'll be
Okay.
moved over 4 foot, so we need a 6-foot variance.
Let me, quick. 4 foot. Yeah, I mean,
So the plans that you submitted show it 6 feet from
Was
the
it
property.
6 foot? Okay, I had it backwards then.
Okay.
okay.
So we're going with the
So-
plans?
Yeah, we're
as
going with the
submitted?
plan. Yeah,
Okay.
whatever
Okay.
the plan was, yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Good. Everything now is
Right.
very cool.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome.
Otherwise, we've got, never mind. Okay. All right. Larry?
No questions.
Tony?
No questions.
James?
No questions.
Phyllis?
What's the height of the new garage going to be?
I know the garage doors were 9 foot, so probably with the ridge and everything, probably about 15 feet, 16 feet.
I have no further questions. Oh, and it'll match the house?
Of course.
Good. Okay. There
say
are
about it.
no other questions from the board? Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the application at 21 Peckham Road? Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And 1 recusal. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Item number 6. Kathleen Gibson Ferris and David Ferris, 8 Sites Terrace. Okay, if you just state your names, please.
Kathleen Gibson Ferris.
David Ferris?
Clyde Harriman?
Okay. Do you each swear or affirm the testimony provided tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so would you briefly tell us what the problem is?
Sure. This variance is to be able to replace an existing porch that was destroyed by a motor vehicle accident in December. We had a car come up our road speeding, and he hit our porch and took it off. And it's going to be the same porch that was there, but when we applied for the building permit, we found out there wasn't, the porch before didn't have a permit to make it bigger than it was, wider, or longer than it was, so we need to apply for variance. There always has been a porch on the front, but it just wasn't the full length of the house. It was always there since the 1920s, but it just wasn't the full length of the house. It was half the length of the house.
Okay.
I have pictures attached, you can see.
Yeah, and as part of the application, there are
Right.
some photographs. Okay. Christine, questions?
So the new porch is going to be exactly like the one that was just destroyed?
Right.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
No questions.
Art?
How long was the porch there that got knocked down by the car? Roughly ballpark.
Probably
It was Bender Road.
1999 maybe.
Okay. No other questions, thank you.
Okay, that's actually what I was going to ask. How long have you lived in the house?
20 years, I think.
Okay, so
Some
the porch had been expanded just before you,
Well, just as we were moving in, the house has been in his family since 1946 or something, so it's been family-owned, but passes through 3 different people in the family.
Okay, okay, all right. All right. Very handsome porch.
Thank you. Hope it's the same again.
Larry?
No questions.
Tony?
No questions.
James?
No question.
Fellas?
No question.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the application at 8 Sites Terrace? Okay, seeing none. If there are no further questions from the board, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recusals? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Item number 7, Kathleen and Kathleen Sinisi, 19 Darlene Drive. Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
Both just state your names into the microphone.
Okay. You go first. I'm Kathleen Lisa Sinisi. And I'm Kathleen M. Sinisi. I'm her mother.
Do you each swear or affirm the testimony you provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes. Yes, 100%.
Okay, do you want to briefly tell us why you're here?
The only reason why we're here is because we've had problems with our neighbors surveilling the house, and I brought in it through this fencing application. I've had problems with them heckling my house, calling me names, verbal abusive names. I've had the police come. I've called them many times, 10 times, and I think the thing that made me apply for this fencing application is when my neighbor on 16 Darling Drive told me that I needed a restraining order.
We needed a restraining order from these
And he
people.
called the police on them.
We had to call 5 times the police just to restrain this woman from attacking us. I mean, she would come over and start arguing with my daughter. She would start arguing with me for no reason at all. So the reason why we want this fence is so that we can stop them from surveilling us when we come, when we go, or when we leave. They're driving us crazy. I never had a neighbor like this in my life. We had normal neighbors, but this person is beyond help. I just hope that I can get this fence so that we can have some privacy, we can have some peace of mind.
And the thing is, it doesn't even need to be like an 8-foot fence.
No,
You
it
know, I
doesn't.
mean, I'll accept whatever fencing. I think the idea is that these neighbors won't stop surveilling us, and I think of if you were living in your house and they can know every time you enter and leave the house. That's how I feel every time. And I don't know
So
what to do.
we just
Yeah.
think that we like more privacy, or, just try to have more normalcy to our life.
Okay. So in the variance that you've submitted, you're applying for a fence that would be 8 to 10 feet?
Or it could be less than that. I mean,
Could be
if
less.
it's too high a variance, I could,
Okay.
I mean, if you think it's too high, I'll accept whatever, just as
All
long
right.
as there's
Any-
some sort of fencing, because they can tell every time we leave, when we come back home. It's just, and the thing is, they smoke a lot, they do drugs, they're just,
They're unbelievable. I
Okay.
never had a
Bad
neighbor
people.
like this in my life, and I hope you never have one like this at
Okay.
all.
All right, I hope you understand that the authority of the zoning board is limited,
Yeah.
in this case, just to your application.
Yeah,
We-
oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I
understand.
mean, we're.
I know I
we're-
said 8 to 10, but I could compromise.
We'll
The
compromise.
zoning code says that in a front yard,
Yeah.
anywhere in the front yard.
Anywhere in the front yard. would be
Anywhere in the
fine.
front yard. The maximum height of a fence is 3.5 feet.
Okay, all right.
Now, you have a chain link fence there now.
Right.
But that's the property line fence,
That's the
yeah.
property line
That's all
Right,
it
but
is.
that's about 3.5.
That's all it
feet, I
is. That's
think.
all it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's about it.
So the existing fence meets the code.
Okay,
Right.
all
So,
right.
so you're asking for something
That's
more than that.
Right, we are.
Because I think we have a problem. I think in this case, we definitely need a high fence based on the neighbors, their actions, how they've treated us and everything, I think warrants it. But
Okay.
I'll accept whatever. I mean, it's just the problem. It's going to be a constant problem as long as we live there. It's
Okay.
going to be no ending to this problem. So I don't know what to
Okay,
do.
all right. Christine, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Paul?
Sure. How long have you lived there?
I've lived there 52 years,
And
and I've dealt with a lot of neighbors, and they've all been.
could you mind moving the microphone down?
Yeah,
just a little
sure.
bit?
I've lived there 52 years. I've dealt with 5 families, and they're all were very well. You know, they were very nice and appreciative, yes.
Okay, and when did this problem start?
Let's see, 2019, no, 2018.
20,
2018,
It's probably-
2019.
it's last year.
2019.
In the
Yeah,
last year?
Mhm.
And what did the police offer for you to resolve the issue? if
Well,
anything?
first they offered a restraining order, but then they
Well,
didn't
one-
write the order out. You know, they didn't write it out. They said I had to go to court to get the restraining order. And then, but then when I went to the courtroom, they said that I had to have the policeman write a form out. So we went to court, but we went to the wrong court, of course, and then we had to go to the regular court, because we went to family court. And we should have gone to the regular Supreme Court, you know, not the Supreme, but the regular court. So
actually.
then also, we got also, what was the other order?
Was the
besides-
order of protection?
Order of protection.
Was the other,
The order of protection.
So-
But the police thought that it wasn't that much of a problem. You know, they thought it wasn't that heinous a crime. So they didn't write out any orders at all. So they just let it go. And that was it. I couldn't do it much of anything else.
Okay, and when was that?
Let's see, that was, God, 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
It was
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, 2 Sundays ago.
2 weeks
no,
ago?
since the police came there, but this
Since
was
the
probably
police.
a few months back.
A few.
But I called the police probably a couple Sundays ago.
Couple.
Because she was heckling me as I was shoveling the snow.
Yeah.
I mean, I had to go to family court, and all they did was give me a pamphlet, Center for Victim Safety and Support. A place where you could call, a hotline where you can, you know, for people who are victims of stalking, of harassment.
Okay, and did you do that?
I did not yet.
No, we
Because I
didn't.
didn't know, you know, I probably should. I probably could.
Okay.
I probably
and
should.
Just so I'm clear about the order of protection, that was not issued because you didn't go to the court, or,
No, no. They didn't think it was a criminal enough offense.
so you did go to the court?
Well, I visited the family court, yes, we did.
Right, but you
As a
recognize that
fam-
that's not the right place.
No, it's
No,
not.
it
It would be a
wasn't.
criminal court
It
then.
would have to be criminal court.
So did you do that?
No, we did not. We
Okay.
didn't go there.
All right, and when's the last time the police came?
Two Sundays.
2 Sundays
or
ago.
three.
I don't remember
Actually,
the date.
three Sundays ago.
Was-
And do you know, were any arrests made or any other action taken by the police?
No, there was no action taken by the police.
No.
None whatsoever.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay.
So how many times have you called the police? You alluded earlier that you called numerous times. Now you're saying
Probably
you
10
called-
times.
5 or 6 times.
Maybe 10 times.
5 or 6 times.
So, and all of a sudden, last Sunday is the first time they ever showed up?
No.
Or 2 Sundays ago?
3.
3 Sundays ago was the last time
Three
we called.
Sundays ago. They've seemed to calm down, these neighbors.
I don't,
But
How many times did the police respond to your house?
5 times, 5
it's
or
more
6
to, I would
times.
say it's probably 5 to 8, I would probably say 5 to 8 times.
And they've refused to honor
They've
your
refused to
request
really
that you're
do.
telling us?
Yeah, they
You just
didn't do,
didn't follow
They
up on it?
just,
You
they
haven't
just
followed up on
didn't
it?
follow up on it.
You haven't followed up on it?
they didn't do anything.
They
like-
didn't do anything. They didn't think it was
Have
enough
you-
of criminal
have you-
offense.
have you-
That's why.
Have you followed up with the police?
I did try.
We have
We have
tried,
contacted the
but
town of Poughkeepsie Police.
we-
I've counted.
Have you followed up with the police since the last time, 2 Sundays ago? Is my question.
Probably not, no. I just let it go.
Okay.
I just
Now,
let it go, sir.
what would make you think that a fence is going to stop these people from watching you come in and out of your driveway?
No, it won't, probably
It
won't.
It
no.
probably
So
won't.
what's your net gain here?
No.
It's
trying to
just to get some sort of privacy for our own. I think it's to try. You might not think that, but
I'm
that's.
just listening. I'm not thinking anything right now.
I'm not, it would help if it were a fence, but I can understand if there wasn't, but I think it would be a problem if there was no fence.
Let me ask you this last question. We were out there, you have a chain link fence with some kind of shrubbery behind it.
It's not much
It's
protection.
not much
Would it be
protection.
easier for you to plant more screening? Do the
What do you
same
mean?
thing?
Like, what do you mean seeding? Meaning like
You mean like
trees? You
Screening,
mean?
yeah, some kind of
Trees.
a bush or tree or,
Would that be a
Bushes.
better option?
I
You
don't know,
know?
I'm just asking. I'm just
Probably.
throwing things out here, I
Probably
don't
would.
know.
Maybe that would be a good idea,
I
yeah?
think you're
would
still
be-
limited though in height in front yard, but it might be.
No,
Oh, you're not?
no. My understanding is that greenery can be whatever height.
Yeah, I think we need to confirm with Lizette, because I thought there was something about if it was in the nature of a hedge, like a fence, but I think in general, you can have, there's no restrictions on greenery in your front yard.
Yeah, unless it's on a corner.
So that
Right,
might-
as long as there's no sight distance where people, on a road wouldn't be able to see
Yeah,
because
that-
of
that's
whatever
not an
regard.
issue.
They've got a
Right.
clear line
Yeah.
of sight down that
So,
road.
yeah, I think you would be able to plant without needing a variance from this board.
So,
Well,
for
okay.
for example, I'm just throwing things out here. We've had other folks that have come in with.
So how
similar
would you
problems
just,
with-
how would you get, how would you like, you would just seed, trees or
Seeding
just,
trees.
how would you just buy trees or just
We've
just
had-
grow
we've had-
them, just
we've-
grow them
we've had-
itself in the yard?
There
We've
any,
had-
yeah, any number of companies where you can buy bushes, shrubs, small trees.
Evergreens. evergreen.
That might be
And-
the better
and
option.
You
That
may,
might
you
be.
may find that that's a much cheaper option. I mean, fencing can be very expensive, especially
is.
tall
Plus
fencing like
the
that.
upkeep.
Right.
Yeah, I
And-
mean,
And shrubbery might be more tolerable for the neighbors in the area,
Right.
maybe against the fence in the front yard. Most people, if you put shrubs in or some kind of a greenery, they are okay with it because they're kind of,
I mean, I never thought about
I'm just throwing
trees
things out here,
and,
that's all.
in the front yard, although I just have not much protection in my front yard.
That sounds like a good
But it
idea.
sounds like a good plan. I mean,
Yeah, it does. It sounds
No
like
more-
a
no
good
more.
idea.
yeah, I mean, there's yews that get big and bushy, and certainly,
You know,
I
a
mean-
modest evergreen.
yeah.
They-
And I think your issue is the driveway itself.
the driveway, because it's directly pointed, the ring security camera is directly
Yeah.
pointed at our house. That's the,
Yeah, you would, for that, you'd have to have a gate so that the car could get in and
Go,
out.
right.
so it'd have to be by the property line fence, that, what already existing fence that we have.
Right, or if you could make the driveway narrower. I don't know if you need. Yeah, I
There's
think
no
it's
way
a-
to protect myself. I mean,
I
there's
think
no way
it's a
then.
double width.
But then I think the
Yes,
problem
it
is
is.
if I have brush, there's no way to protect my driveway from them. They could still, like, surveil the house.
Yeah.
That is a problem, but,
All right, Larry, any questions?
No questions.
Tony?
okay,
I have no questions.
James?
No questions.
wow.
Phyllis?
In the, your proposal, your request, you're also asking for fencing in the back?
Not in the back, no, 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 no,
not in the
no, just
back.
in the front, no,
Just in the
no.
front. Just the front, wooden fence.
Okay.
Okay.
Then I misread it. Thank you.
All right.
Oh,
Any other questions from the board? Okay, we have received one letter. It's an anonymous letter, and since all the testimony before the board has to be sworn testimony, I am not going to include that letter in the record. I don't think that'd be fair. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the application at 19 Darlene Drive?
There's Jim in the back.
Yes, sir.
Ma'am.
Come for, or ma'am, I'm sorry. Time for new glasses.
Well, it's dark back there. There's no lights back there all of a sudden tonight.
There's a microphone that you can take.
No, you could talk.
Melody.
You could talk, Melody.
Melody, you can talk.
Oh, you could talk wherever.
You can talk.
Very good. Hello. My name is Melody Ben-Ezra, and I live in 26 Darlene Drive.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I've lived in the neighborhood since 1977, and I know that they're very good neighbors, and that just on a Saturday afternoon walk, I just walked by and heard how very, very distressed they were, and that they felt very, very harassed by relatively new neighbors. It's like Crown Heights is part of like IBM neighborhood, so a lot of people come and go, except for some people who've just managed to be like there for like 40 years, 40, 50 years. So this is like the new kids on the block are basically making them very unhappy. I've been told that they make a lot of like Italian slurs and a whole bunch of very, very
Really, yeah, they have.
Very-
I didn't even mention that they hate Italian people and they,
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
there's a lot of just very, yeah, that's happened. Yeah, right, that's.
and basically made it very uncomfortable. As long as I've been in the neighborhood, we've basically had a potpourri of everybody. And if the new people are causing problems, I think that they deserve a break. I can recommend a landscaper though.
What's a landscaper? What is that?
That's a person who takes care of the greenery. And
Yeah,
you
right,
brought
right,
it
yeah,
to
of course,
Crown.
thank you.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, thank you very much for your observations. Anyone have any questions of?
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Thank you,
Okay,
Melody.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else that wishes to address 19 Darling Drive? Okay. I'm open to suggestions on how we could proceed.
Give you mine.
It strikes me that one thing that we might do is adjourn this to give the applicant time to look for some alternatives, to talk to a landscaper,
Really? I mean, that's, yeah, that would be.
and to see if there are some acceptable alternatives. You know, I don't want to just, I think, close this public hearing right now. I'd like to give everybody an opportunity to try to work some things out.
Works for me.
Anybody,
Good with that.
other ideas, or? All
That's fine.
good? Okay. So I think what we will do is adjourn this. So it's still a valid application. And then if, in the next month, talk to, you might want to talk to both landscapers on what they could do to provide screening, and, tell them you want real screening.
Okay.
And
the thing
you-
is,
and
could
you
it-
might also then talk to people that build fences and get some prices, because, I think putting in some good screening is going to be a good deal cheaper.
Yes, I see,
So if you could do a little research on that in the next month?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, okay.
All right, okay. I think that's the way to go here. Okay.
I just want to ask one more question. Like, why is it so difficult to get fencing, just to
Yeah.
be approved for
Approved for
fencing?
fencing.
Why do they make it so difficult? Why is it so hard to get approval for fencing?
It's only difficult to get fencing in the front yard. And the zoning code, which was adopted by the town board,
Okay.
years ago,
All right.
has decided that in the town of Poughkeepsie, they didn't want each lot feel like it's walled off, a series of compounds or enclosures or mini, forts.
Is it for also like for when you sell the house, could fencing, impact the sale of the house too?
Yes,
I
it
mean,
can. Yes, it can.
If you put fencing, then it could prevent somebody, then they'll ask, why is there fencing? Is there a problem? Then they'll think there's some issue, Yeah.
Well,
Mr. Chaley?
yeah,
could you-
I don't want to second guess
Yeah.
what the town board does on these issues.
Right.
You might, in what you're doing, also contact your town council person
Okay.
Okay.
on this, okay?
Mr. Chaley,
Yeah.
I've seen some people, they have fencing all around their house. Oh,
Some people?
I don't know, this is in the town of Wappinger, so maybe their zoning laws are different. Is that,
Well,
could that be?
and
There-
it's yeah.
There's fencing all around. I just find that
It-
weird.
It's possible.
Yeah,
and-
and they have 10-foot high fences, it's pretty high.
Yeah,
Different.
again, there, we have to deal with each case individually. So it's pretty hard for me to comment on,
Oh, somebody else's,
Yeah.
the
yeah,
property.
I have no idea what the circumstances might be.
Okay. All
So,
right.
sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay, so we will adjourn this,
Okay.
and you have some things to do,
Okay.
and we will see you next month.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, sure.
Sure.
all right.
Thank you.
It's okay. All right, is there a motion to adjourn item number 7 to
March 9th.
March 9th?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Recusals? Okay, thank you and good luck.
Thank you
Yes,
so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
All right. Item number 8, Mental Health of America of Dutchess County at 515 Haight Avenue. And on this one, Paul Lee will be recusing himself, if I'm correct. Okay. All right, so if you would state your name, please.
Sure. My name is Andrew O'Grady. I'm the Executive Director of Mental Health America of Dutchess County and the MARC Agency, Mid-Hudson Addiction Recovery Centers.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so if you'd explain what
Sure,
you're
sure.
proposing.
I'm going to dial it back about a year. Well, longer than that. I've worked in this field for 30 years, and stigma has been a big issue for me, understanding that people don't get treatment and for addiction and mental health. because of stigma and because nobody knows how to talk about anything, or they're fearful to talk about it, or it's awkward. So a big mission of MHA of Dutchess County has been to try to eliminate stigma the best we can. A year ago, the Claudio Cares Foundation and the Coppola family, who have been donating money for computer labs in schools throughout Dutchess County for the past 7-10 years, decided after a family conversation that what they wanted to do was fund some type of endeavor, and they wanted to do it through Mental Health America of Dutchess County to reduce stigma, because their son, who passed in a car accident, had nothing to do with his mental status, also struggled dearly about a year before the accident. And it was very traumatic for the family, and he got help. And after he passed, many people in the community came up to the parents and indicated that Claudio was the kind of kid that listened to other people. And if other kids felt like they needed to talk to somebody or were depressed, they came to him. That was just something comforting that the family heard afterwards. Anyway, when they decided a year ago that they were going to donate their proceeds of their gala event to MHA to reduce stigma, for the last year I've been trying to think of how I could do that. You know, you can do radio ads, you can do billboards, you could do whatever. About 6 months ago, we purchased the property at 515 Haight Avenue. We're expanding, we're growing. We purchased this property. We're moving our vet-to-vet program into it, as well as some children and family administrative offices. You know, we had this huge wall, and it's a very large wall space, and I thought maybe we could put a sign up that kind of got people to talk a little bit. Maybe they're driving by and our family members say, "What is that?" And they open a conversation. And if opening that conversation helps one person, great. So I'm new to this. I'm new to the zoning. I'm new to all of this. I didn't know that there would be a big process, which is fine. I think it's great that you keep track of what goes up where. So I'm trying to make this, my original thought was like overwhelmingly big. It was a giant 11 by 11, which I first submitted sign. I've amended it somewhat, understanding that there are some limitations to what I passed out just now, which is 8 by 6. If you would consider that as an approved sign. The sign does not get illuminated. It's flat up against the wall, and it's going to be on a silver or bronze. It's not going to be white and just just a big white thing on the side of a building. It's going to look a little better than that if approved. And that's why I'm here. I'm looking for a variance because now I understand one sign per building is allowed. And I'm looking to add a second for those reasons.
Okay, thank you. Christine?
No questions.
Paul? Oh, you're recused. Yeah, I'm sorry. All right.
No, this is a difficult one. No, not right now. I'm good right now.
Okay. All right. The sign refers to a program called Claudio Cares.
Claudio Cares is a foundation. That part of the sign does not have to be there. It's the person that put together this signage. That's the way he made it. It certainly does not have to say Claudio Cares, because frankly, I hope that never happens, but the Claudio Cares Foundation may not be there in 3 years. I'm sure it will be, but let's say it isn't. It's not necessary to have Claudio Cares there, but that's why he put it there, the sign maker.
Okay. All right. In the Town of Poughkeepsie Code, a billboard is defined as something that refers to I've forgotten the exact language, but a product, an idea, a service, a facility that is not located at the site of the sign.
Yes.
Okay, that's what constitutes a billboard. And it seems to me that this constitutes a billboard. I mean, it's referring to an issue, potentially a set of treatments, whatever, that aren't located here.
Mhm.
And
It is essentially a billboard. It's a message for people to think about,
Yeah.
yes. Yes.
And I believe billboards are prohibited in the town of Poughkeepsie, so that what you would need is actually a use permit, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
I'd have to think about it to make sure. So it's really initially a question for Lizette as to what would be required, whether this actually constitutes a billboard or not. If it were a billboard, it would be a type of prohibited sign, and the cases are actually split on whether that's a use variance or an area variance. I think it would still be deemed to be an area variance under the case law. The idea is that the board is really not supposed to consider the subject matter of the sign
Yes.
because we have the relatively new Supreme Court case. So the board should actually consider this. It would be deemed strictly an off-premises advertising sign, and we have treated other off-premises signs, such as for the hotels, et cetera, where that would be. So it is a type of prohibited sign. Whether the zoning administrator considered it to be off-premises advertising or a billboard, it would be a prohibited, but this board would have to look at it following Lizette's term, but I don't think it would be a use variance.
Okay.
But the fact that it's a potentially not-for-profit sign or anything like that really doesn't come into the board's consideration, so you would consider it the same as if it was a commercial sign for any other business.
Okay, despite the fact that, to the best of my recollection, many of the off-premises signs that we have approved have been almost in the nature of directional signs. I mean, they're there to alert, usually motorists, that the entrance to a particular business is via a driveway or an entryway that is not on that lot.
Yes, and
Okay.
this is not that type of case. So the rationale for allowing those off-premises signs would not apply to this off-premises sign.
Okay. All right. But this is still something that we should not make a decision based on the content of the sign?
Correct.
Okay.
Because the Supreme Court has said, in order to have your sign ordinance be valid, they should be content neutral. So you should treat all signs the same and not benefit anyone. You don't give a church a benefit of a church might be a bad example. But in general, not-for-profits don't get any more favorable treatment under the law than commercial signs. So they get a little bit, but in general, you try to apply the sign regulations without looking at the content of the sign. Another thing that the board should keep in mind is if this applicant were to change at some future point, and a commercial tenant would come in that wanted both signs, they would have an argument that there would, signs of this size were allowed, and they would then be able to have two commercial signs for the same building here.
Okay. Okay, thank
Can
you.
I ask a question, or is it not my time? Can I ask
Yeah,
a
sure.
short question?
Sure.
In your Chapter 210 zoning, Article 9 signs, exempt signs, letter N, temporary non-illuminated window signs and posters not exceeding 10% of the total window surface of a building are exempt. So this building has, it's not on this, there's 4 more windows to the left of where this is, and there's windows on the right and many windows on the back. So sign guys can now wrap cars, they can do all sorts of things. I'm wondering if one of these windows doesn't become a window dressing that gives the same message, which is essentially the same size.
The critical distinction with what you just said is a temporary sign?
Yes.
And if you're willing to have this be a temporary sign, then you may not need a variance at all. That would be something you would discuss with the building department and talk about how long you wanted the sign to be up for. There are regulations about how long a temporary sign can be in place, but there are separate regulations that would not involve this board necessarily for temporary signs.
So, so I'm just understanding for definition purposes, temporary regard on letter N, if it's one of those signs that peel and stick signs that go on the window, do I have to then come and say, I'm going to do that window sign for 6 months, or it's temporary, it can be taken down at any time?
You need a temporary sign permit, so you would have
I
to
need
tell
a temporary sign permit.
Correct. Right? Yeah, so you'd have to advise the building department the type of sign, how long it was going to be there, et cetera. Zoning department, sorry.
Zoning department.
He could, for example, if you look at the doorway, the top of that glass door, in theory, he could reduce that size and put that in that window inside, correct? Like other businesses have, they have signs inside the window?
Oh, yeah.
There are other options.
As far as I know. No, but I think, like you
Right.
said, that's between the applicant and the building department.
But again,
or-
we have other
or-
businesses that have that.
Oh, yeah.
And we've directed them that way, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
seems to work for them.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But it has to be on the inside of the window, and it can't be on the entire window, it has to be.
In fact, in many cases, we've suggested that.
It's worked out very well for them.
Instead of having extra signage on the facade, that they make use
So-
of the windows that they have.
Right, so I'm not understanding what you're describing, I'm sorry.
And your photo here, if
Yeah.
you took that top pane of that center door, your entrance door,
Uh-huh.
reduce the size of that display sign, whatever you want to call it, put that on the inside of that window, you'd still get the traffic going by, you would still see it, but yet I don't think, since it's on the inside, you don't need a permit, I don't believe.
As something that affixes to the window,
Inside the
or
window.
as something that
Inside the
hangs
window.
behind it?
Yeah, I mean, how much of the building are you leasing?
We own the building.
Oh, you own the building?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I looked it up, and it's in the name of a realty company.
It's in the name of, it should be, well, then they haven't updated that. It's MHA Mark LLC.
Oh, okay, well, that helps a lot.
Yeah, we own the building. That's why when I bought the building, and I was thinking, what could I do? And now I own this, the agency owns this building. And it has a huge amount of wall space, and what could I do? And I didn't understand all this, which is now I'm getting it. Now I'm getting it, but I was really hoping to be able to do something good with it.
Well, I think the windows are a resource.
Oh, there's and just, you know, the response to this, talking about beautification and making it look nicer, just to know that 2 days ago we replaced all the window dressings, and it looks a lot better than it did, and we're probably going to be replacing the whole front door area to improve that as well. So, yeah, I got the first thing I sent to you was 11 feet by 11 feet. It was very large, and it was white, and it was just boom. I tried to reduce it. I came up with some other alternatives, and this was the least, you know, billboardish that I came up with. But I do understand why it's essentially a billboard. Well, I'll look at the window options. I guess.
Okay. Let me just finish going around and make sure that people have had a chance to make comments or ask
Sure.
questions. Okay, Christine, do you?
No, I was just going to say, I think that sounds like a good idea with the big billboard type, but there's also in question, or for a variance for the other sign to the right of the door, which identifies the offices or something that's in the building, correct?
Essentially the directory sign.
The directory sign, yes.
Okay.
Okay. I just.
And you're okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm okay with the directory sign. You need something there to tell people what's there.
Right, and, okay, all right. Larry?
No questions.
Tony?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. And Phyllis?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, so fine with
I'm
the
fine with
directory-
the directory sign, and I like the idea about using the windows.
Okay? All right.
Does the window idea, is that something I need to come in front of some committee for and get approval?
You would need to, it still constitutes a sign. correct?
Right, it still
Correct, so-
constitutes a sign, so you'd need a sign permit application, and you would talk to someone in the building or zoning
In
department.
the zoning department.
Zoning
to
and-
Lizette, or Tucker, Lizette Tucker, I forgot to use her married name. And she, she can go over the code with you and work through what the code allows. But there's, it's likely that you might find something that doesn't require any variance and that would suit your purposes.
What
Okay.
the board may want to do is rule tonight, make a decision tonight on the directory sign, and then hold the other open on the off chance that the applicant comes, but maybe wants 30% of a window coverage where 25% is allowed, or something, to hold it open so that you don't need to re-advertise, but that's at the pleasure of the board.
I think that makes sense, just as a kind of procedural, practical matter.
Okay.
Okay, so, let's see. Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address this application, 515 Haight Avenue?
Yes.
Yes.
My name is Luigi Coppola.
Christine?
Mr. Coppola, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
I do. With my restaurants in the area, I've appeared before the board many times. But I'd have to say that this has nothing to do with procedure. As far as I'm concerned, this is just to put a little emotion on what it is you're deciding on. Now, I understand what you're saying. You can't let emotions get in the way of the content of the sign and what it constitutes, but this is one of those times where I think that it does. And I think that perhaps you should consider this other than what your procedures are saying. Rules change, ideas change. This is something that is a little bit bigger than the rules and the ideas. If only one person could be saved because they saw that sign, I think that constitutes a good way to change the rule for a one-time use. I get it. Believe me, I get it. Many towns I've appeared before the boards, and I get it. You got to follow the rules. But every once in a while, there's a reason why you should go, maybe this is that one time where we should think about bending the rules a little bit. A little 10% of the window sign, that's not going to do anything, and I think we all know that. You're trying to appease, and I get it. This is the one time where you guys got to go, maybe we need to do something different. And I'd appreciate you guys just at least consider granting something that maybe is not to the letter of the law, but to actually the emotion of the law. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else? 515 Haight Avenue. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, okay. Okay, I think it's agreed. So let me move that we close the public hearing on the application for a wall sign of 18.66 square feet, where a wall sign of 15 square feet is permitted.
Second.
Okay, so, there's no further discussion about the directory sign. All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, now on the other two, well, actually, technically it's two variances, one for a second wall sign and then a variance to allow a large wall sign. One thing we can adjourn those two, and then find out from the applicant what might be possible in terms of wall signs. If they work, fine. We can then just dismiss the application. If it doesn't look like window signs are going to work, we can come back to the original application. I'm trying to make as many options as I can here.
Works for me. I don't know about for the applicants. Gives them time to regroup, essentially come back with the plans.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know from just a simple size or a design point of view what might be possible for the windows. And I think it's fair to find that out.
Especially since they're going to redo the door. I don't know if it's going to be a bigger door, bigger window. I don't know.
The doors aren't going to be bigger when we put when we put them in there. I'm wondering if you're going to look back and look at that, what size ends up constituting a billboard, or is it doesn't matter what size?
I believe it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what size. Anything above and beyond the one sign that's on there could be considered a billboard.
It's actually what the sign, the fact that it advertises something that's not an off-premises.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And so if if CARES Foundation had a small office in my building and then we had that sign there for the Claudio CARES Foundation, it's their message, is that different than a billboard?
That would be something to talk to Lizette about. It might work.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
good to know.
Because then it would be an on-premises sign.
Right.
Which would be permitted.
Yes.
And they would probably be permitted at 15 square feet, but
At 15
Ask-
square feet, yeah.
ask Lizette.
Well, you could think of it this way, it could be a sign that pretty much matches the directory sign
Another sign that matches the size of the director's sign.
on the other side of the door.
Yeah, on the other side of the door. Okay.
Okay.
Did the county weigh in on this?
The county did not.
Do we have to worry about that?
Which,
with the
well,
county?
I
Is that something-
fully expected that we would hear from the county, but we did not.
So we didn't hear it all from the county? We sent it to the county?
Yeah.
And if we don't have a response, was it 30 days since we sent to the county? It's probably just shy of,
3 weeks.
So we don't know yet.
right, so you can't act on the other variants tonight anyway, if we don't have comments from the county.
Oh, because we have to have 30 days, and we don't have it yet.
So we're stuck anyway.
We're stuck. Okay.
See you next month, I guess. Could you put me
So-
on the, no? Can you put me on the agenda for next month? So we-
I did not know that until this minute, so my apologies. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
So
The only
the-
reason I rushed to get this on the agenda was because I was trying to do something for the Claudio CARES Foundation 2 days ago, and I had no idea this. So that was put on hold, so there's no huge rush right now. I can come back next month when you have that information, and I can maybe tweak this a little bit and come back with another option
Okay,
or something.
well, and, you know, look at the possibility of a second directory sign,
Mm-hmm.
and a window sign.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll come back
All
with
right,
those and
so
send a new
as it-
application.
As it turns out,
So then I think the board should rescind its motion to close the public hearing on that.
exactly. So I move that we reopen the public hearing on the variance governing the directory sign.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all right, so.
We're adjourned to March 9, right?
It's open. Okay, so I move that we adjourn item number 8 until March 9th. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
That's not
Opposed?
that's not the directory sign.
Everything.
Everything, okay.
Yeah, because we didn't have the.
The county, that's right, the
We
county.
haven't left the county enough
That's right.
time to comment.
Sorry.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, item number 9.
Jim, young lady has a hand up. I don't know why.
Yeah. Okay, and you have to leave now? Oh, okay.
She doesn't want to come in and enjoy the fun? You bring them up.
Okay, yeah, come on up and somebody will sign it for you. Okay.
You only get half credit, though.
Yeah, I had,
Right, you
I,
have to do-
I was so afraid to interrupt you. I didn't want to interrupt you. Yeah. So sorry. Thank you.
okay.
Do you need one too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, item number 9 is Stewart Shops, 2245 South Road. And just so everybody knows, this is an item that's still before the planning board. They have not yet passed the seeker determination. So we're not able to vote on this, but we can have a discussion. There's some items here that are going to need to be passed in order for this project to go forward, so we gather some information. So appreciate your coming tonight to give us an overview of this project. All right, so your name, please.
Yeah, my name is Chad Fowler. I work for Stewart Shops in Saratoga Springs, New York.
So do you swear or affirm the testimony you provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Very well.
Okay, so you can tell us about this new project.
Yes, it's a proposed Stewart's, a new Stewart's, where the current Umberto's restaurant is with the car wash. It's on the corner of Route 9 and Southgate Drive. Proposed to be 3,700 square feet with a canopy that has 4 dispensers underneath it. It is a corner lot. It is developed on all sides, on the other remaining 2 sides. We did look at many options for design to position the building and have a workable site plan for us. We have 335 shops. We know it works as a convenience store. We think that we have a good plan here with regard to flow of the lot, safety, visibility, et cetera. It does require 5 different, actually, 5 variances. 2 are area variances. 2 pertain to the signage on the gas pumps, the digital signage, and 1 is a proximity ordinance between residential and commercial. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, Christine?
No questions right now.
Okay, Paul?
Do you own that property now?
No, it's under contract.
Okay. And do you know the area to the south on Route 9? Is that covered by town water and sewage?
This property is covered by town water and sewer. I don't know beyond this property.
Can you tell me where the fuel tanks would be located?
I can show you.
Okay. Probably better. It may take a moment just for it to.
They're just off the corner of the building, right here, the entrance of Southgate.
So closer to the residential area?
Between the building and canopy on Southgate Drive.
You might need to hit the button and then it takes a second.
It says on, the red light is on. That helps.
Apparently not.
And part of the design for placement of gas tanks is the gas tanker also. So that's why we position them where we have them, is for the tanker to come in off of either entrance and drop gas and still have a functional lot. We don't want to block off the entire lot. We can't put them far off in the corner because the tanker has to drive by them. So that's why we kind of position them in a drive lane, which is where we're showing the gas tanks.
Are there regulations about how far you can pipe it to a tank?
No, not regulations, no. It requires more horsepower in the submersible pump if we chose to put them farther away. But in this case, it was driven by the flow of the tanker. It actually is coincidentally in the delivery area for the store as well. The store also gets delivered with tractor trailers, and the tanks are in the same area as that traffic would be.
That's all I have.
Art?
So in theory, it would be possible to move the tanks to the north side of the building, the north front corner.
Yeah, we would have to plot the tanker on there and make sure it works for the truck for flow. We haven't.
But it's not impossible, probably.
It's not impossible.
Might not be ideal.
It would block, if the tanker was on the north part of the property, it would block probably 2/3 of the parking at the store then, because it would block that whole north side parking.
For them to do a drop takes half hour?
A little longer, 45 minutes.
How many times a week do you figure typically?
It goes by volume. So if we sell a lot of gas, we can get a delivery every other day, every 3 days, once a week. It depends on how much we sell.
The other concern, I think, for me is the distance from the south, whatever, west corner, I guess, of that building to the residence on the other side of the street. It's supposed to be
500 feet.
500 feet, and I'm not sure you're meeting that. So the question here would be, is it possible to slide that building further north?
We did look at that as an option. There wasn't enough room to have parking on the south side. The way that it's a triangle-shaped lot, it has an angle. It's not a rectangle, so it's not as easy as just flipping it over, because I would lose. That would mean my delivery would be to the north and parking would be to the south. There's not enough room to have parking on the south the way we have it here, or we were showing it the double-loaded version. So that was an option we looked at.
My next question, I think, is hopefully be my last. As far as if this project was to come forward, how are you going to screen from all the neighbors the hustle and bustle, the lighting, the noise, the everything? Even though it's a sunken lot versus your neighbors, how are you going to try to negate their rather not very good observations of that building from where they live?
We have positioned the building where all the activities in the front, the gas canopy, the tanker's delivery, et cetera. That's one reason to have the building farther off the road.
We all know the noise isn't going to stay in the front, typically. That noise is going to be generated and come up that hillside.
We are proposing some landscaping in the back. I can show you a landscaping plan. The lights, the planning board did mention they want to change the color of the lights to 4,000 degree Kelvin, which is more of a yellowish. These are LED fixtures. We do have to meet the light ordinance to have full cutoff for the property line. And I'll just point out the landscaping plan. I have one. We are showing some deciduous trees behind the building on both sides where there's an opening between the canopy and the back property, on the left and the right rear of the building to try to screen some of that.
But they're going to drop their leaves in the fall, correct?
Correct. I mean, we are not opposed to evergreens. We just haven't got that far with the planning process.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Just as a kind of a housekeeping matter here, we've received a letter from a neighbor, and did it appear in your packets? Or do I need to read it into the record? Maybe I better read it into the record if it's not clear. Okay. That's,
Is that the 23 Peacock?
Yeah, February 6th,
Not-
220?
At MapQuest, that's a quarter of a mile away.
Is it? Well, it's still a letter that we've gotten. So it's addressed to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I'm very concerned about the construction in my neighborhood of a Stewart's gas station at the corner of Southgate Road and Route 9. The property on Southgate Road is so close to my neighborhood. I live practically next door and only recently learned about the public hearing when a neighbor of mine told me about it. I thought that as a resident that lives close to the project, I would receive notice. I took a look at the town code and was surprised that the notice requirement is only 200 feet. 200 feet really doesn't provide notice to any of the neighbors. I also read that Stewart's is supposed to publish notice in the local newspaper. I do not remember seeing any such notice in the Poughkeepsie Journal. The town code also says the ZBA can require the applicant to post a sign. In this case, the ZBA should consider making an exception to the 200-foot rule and provide notice to more neighbors that live close to the property. The variance requires gas stations to be at least 500 feet from residential neighborhoods. So at the very least, neighbors within 500 feet should receive notice. Also, the ZBA should require stewards to post a sign on the property. In light of the fact that many residents are unaware of the public hearing, I think the public hearing should be pushed back until the residents nearby have received notice of the project. If the public hearing goes forward, the ZBA should consider the opposition of the residents. Putting a gas station and large convenience store on the corner of Southgate Road is a terrible idea. Placement of gas tanks so close to the houses is dangerous. There is a reason why the code requires a 500-foot barrier. The restriction is in place to protect residents not only from explosions and gas leaks, but also the negative side effects that come with constructing a gas station, like a lot of traffic movement in and out. There is also a heightened risk for accidents with the increased movement. There are other more suitable locations for a gas station that probably do not require as many variances. Stewards should seriously consider relocating their project to a more suitable location. Thank you. Signed, Sam Haddad at 23 Peacock Lane. Okay, so that's the letter, the one letter that we've received. And what, Paul, you say that's some distance away?
It's certainly more than 200 feet.
Okay. All right. Okay, I guess my question, and I really don't have any issue with the setbacks and the signage that you're proposing, but I have questions about a couple of the others. One is you've got 4 gas dispensing locations, and how many individual at each of those? Are these two-sided? Or
Yeah, they're two-sided, so a gas dispenser has a pumping point at either side.
Either side.
So 4 dispensers is 8 pumping points.
Okay. Do you really need 8?
We like to have even more. Yeah, 8 is pretty much our minimum these days with the gas market, yes. Yes. I mean, although we are a convenience store, over half of our sales are outside with gas, so it's a big part of our business.
And if you had fewer, it would what, be cars
We do have
backed up?
stores that have fewer. I mean, that would be a return on investment calculation we have to do. To have 3 dispensers versus 4, I mean, I don't know what that would really gain as far as it wouldn't change the proximity to the neighbor, to the residential.
It wouldn't allow you to move the building any.
It wouldn't allow us to move the building. The canopy would still remain out front between the building and the road. And we do that for a few reasons. One is for flow. We want it to be visible from the road also. It needs to be visible from the building for our partners to see the dispensers. And again, to have that traffic away from the neighborhood versus the other way around, where the canopy would be closer to the neighbors, was probably the biggest driving point. Yes.
I thought maybe just having a little fewer gas pumps, a little smaller canopy would allow.
It would mean the canopy would get shorter by approximately 20 feet. It's 122 feet now we're showing, so by chopping one dispenser off, we'd lose about 20 feet of canopy.
All right, and then my other question having to do with the proximity to the residential neighborhood, which is, to me, the difficult one here.
Yes.
And, you know, the issues, I would imagine this is a station that's going to be open until, what, 10 at night?
11.
11 at night?
Yes.
Okay. So there'll be light, there'll be noise, there will be traffic. It is Route 9, that is for sure, and that when it was a car wash and a restaurant, the restaurant was also open late. So, but we don't want to make it worse. I guess my question is, in terms of the screening there on the back and the side, is there any reason why that screening couldn't be almost continuous? I mean, so that people on those residential streets, when they look down towards it, see pretty much a forest.
We could definitely add screening to the rear. We don't need any visibility from the rear for any marketing purposes, so we could essentially shield the building with evergreen trees or something similar. They would have to be substantial. I mean, Southgate Road is a hill.
Yeah.
So whatever we put in the back, it would be, mature height would have to be 30 feet plus, I would assume.
How tall is the building going to be?
I didn't bring that dimension with me, but probably 20, 25 feet high to the peak.
But in the back, the trees would be up on I mean, there's a retaining wall between.
Yeah, so we would build on our side of the retaining wall. Well, there's a slope, so there wouldn't be a retaining wall. So essentially, finished floor height would be where the trees would be planted at that elevation.
Okay.
So
you couldn't plant on the other side of the retaining wall?
we don't own that, no.
Oh.
So everything buildable is pretty much at the similar grade. We're grading the perimeter around us to us, but we don't need a retaining wall at this time.
Is that property owned by the town?
Not that I'm aware, but I have a survey, I can look.
I think on the side it must be owned by the town, because that's part of the right-of-way for Southgate Drive.
According to this, on the two sides adjacent to us is our ARCPRL Portfolio, LLC. Not the town.
Along Southgate Road, that's the town right away, no?
The right-of-way, of course, is the town, yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'm saying the other two
Okay,
sides
those-
surrounding us is.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm much more concerned with as we face this, the thing on the lower left and then just below. Because, yeah, that and then up the next, no, yeah, right, okay. Those two are really, if those are screened, then
And there is room to do
nobody
some.
from the residential area would.
It looks like there is room to do some substantial screening there. Some would be on the town property on Southgate, we'd have to get permission for that, but
Yeah.
to the rear, there is room. There is I believe, a sewer easement to the rear, but that doesn't keep us from planting trees.
Right, okay, good, thank you. Larry?
No questions.
Tony?
No questions.
James?
No questions.
Phyllis?
So, the increased foot traffic will unfortunately bring increased litter. So, I'm just asking because I don't know, how does Stewart's keep their property? Like, do you have a gardening crew that comes in and would take care of the trees and do the litter? Do you have workers who go out every day and do that?
The litter is the partners that work in the shop. There is also district maintenance that also comes when they repair. They will also do litter cleanup. We do hire out landscaping crews to mow the lawns and trim the shrubs. They're expecting also to clean up litter. So there's layers, but they all work to the same result, is to try to keep the litter off or keep it picked up.
Daily? Is that, I
Daily
mean, it
if
sounds-
needed. Daily if needed, yes. That is the intent, to keep the lot clean, and it's inviting. We prefer our presence and our perception not to be, a littered, covered parking lot. So we want to be inviting and have a clean look.
In general, when there's sometimes a new business, you can tell they're in the neighborhood by their litter. It's just so I'm glad to hear that you have a way to manage that. Thank
Yes.
you.
Okay, any other questions from board members? All right, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the Stewart Shop application at 2245 South Road? Yes, sir. Yeah,
She wants to go in afterwards.
Yeah, are you going to read the letter?
I'd like to ad lib if I could, as a.
Okay, but then, yes, you can also leave the letter, and
Yes.
we'll make that part of the packet. Okay. Okay, if you would each state your name, please.
Hello, respected members of Planning Board. My name is Lab Bangu, and my corporation is Amolak Inc. I own that small gas station just close to where they are proposing across Bonefish, Sunoco gas station. I'm the owner and operator over there, and it's a very small business. And
Mr. Bangu, I'm going to stop you
Okay,
just for a
yeah.
second.
And
You
you
got
want to
it?
get your
Yes,
name.
sir. My name is Leroy Stukes. Do each of you swear or affirm the testimony you provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
yes,
Mr. Bangu?
yes.
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
So it will be a hardship case. This is a big franchise, and they are moving very close to me. And I was not even aware what is happening. I just came to know. That's why I came here, just to object this. And I had one tanker in 15 days over there, and they will be driving 2-3 tanks every week. So it will be killing my business, and which is already I'm not doing it that great over there either. So if you could kind enough to, I don't know what the procedure is, but it's, my concern is my business only.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank
Yes, sir.
My concern primarily is safety, as well as aesthetics. If Southgate Drive, and in fact, I like to use your imagination for a minute with me, along this back wall, sort of across the street, is a Ford dealership. On the opposite side of this property is a convenience store right now. Roughly 3/10 of a mile up, when you get above the slope, is Oriole Drive. Currently, if you were to measure the back of this person's home to where this proposed property is going to go, it's probably about 65 to 70 feet, in my estimate. I live at 57 Nassau Road, and I'm 1 mile exactly from my front gate to the foot of Southgate Drive on Route 9 is 1 mile. I walk it regularly, and I'm finding that we've certainly developed a rush hour, if you will, on Route 9. Seems like every day between Poughkeepsie, Red Lobster, and New Hackensack Road, Wapaches Falls, there's a backup there for at least 15 minutes. With this, what else is happening is we have this much space, but it seems like everybody wants to be in this much space. Poughkeepsie Plaza just had 2 stores moved from across the road into Poughkeepsie Plaza. Burlington Coat Factory just closed their Southgate, or South, they call it, the shops at South Hills, and moved into where the old Toys R Us location is. So right now, in my mind, the area is saturated with so much business. There's not even sufficient parking for the people to go park right now. Southgate Drive is probably the width of where you're sitting to the back of me. And then within that, there's a wall along where this property goes on either side. So I can't imagine how we're gonna get a tanker into that property and not cause a lot more congestion. In addition, we have 3 schools in this area. We have Spackenkill High School, we have the middle school at Spackenkill, and then on Nassau Road, we have Nassau Elementary School. So we have buses going in, as you know, in the mornings between 7 and 8:30 a.m., and again in the afternoon between 2 and 3:30 in the afternoon. So I don't see ergonomically how this project can work in that space. In addition, I'm not sure how much you know about the area. Red Lobster is immediately next door to this location. So I don't know, and I guess there's supposed to be a certain amount of distance between one property versus another property. So I don't see how you can put up a lot of greenery in space that you don't necessarily own. And that property, as you have egress into or ingress into Red Lobster coming down Southgate Drive, I just see it being a traffic nightmare.
Okay. Let me say a couple of things. One is, thank you for your comments. The second is that traffic issues are typically handled by the planning board.
Yes.
And this is still before the planning board.
Yes.
So I would urge you to also visit the planning board and give them your observations. So,
yes.
So it's just that we hear you, but it's not something that we can act on.
Okay, well, I have the same challenge. Honestly, I just got word of this today. I didn't realize that that this was even coming before the board. So I'm really at a pretty big disadvantage. But when I saw it, I said, "Gee whiz, I needed to at least go."
Okay.
Indicate
But
something.
I just wanted to reassure you that this is, there's still several hearings that are going to be held by the planning board. And it sounds like many of your concerns are things that they should hear.
Thank you.
So, okay. But thanks for coming. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
I have to get sworn in.
Your name, sir?
My name is Eric Cole, and I'm from Keenan Bean. I'm representing OMLK Incorporated, which we just heard Mr. Van Goose speak, which, as you're now aware, in the interest of full disclosure.
Well, you need to be sworn.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you provide tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Very well.
Sure it out, in the interest of full disclosure, and you're now aware, owns a competing gas station, Sunoco, at 2194 South Road. To begin, this application is premature. Chairman, you stole my thunder a little bit, but obviously no vote can be held, and the public hearing must remain open until a secret determination is made. I want to say also, concerns raised by New York State Department of Transportation could force the applicant to shift the points of ingress and egress on the site plans. There's also the issue of notice, which I know the chairman read the letter from the concerned citizen. There is no sign posted on the subject lot, which I realize is not a requirement. But in light of an article published back in November, wherein the applicant improperly asserted that it had already obtained all land use approvals from the town, for which a retraction was never printed, it obviously created a chilling effect on public commentary. I would ask that this board would exercise its discretion and require the applicant to post a notice on the subject property. Further, the application argues that the plan falls within the permitted use for the area. However, this is only if the application is consistent with the special use standards, which is not the case. Otherwise, they would not be here seeking 5 variances. One of the variances sought by the applicant for 427 feet of the 500-foot separation from residential property requirement, a variance of greater than 85%, was considered so, I'll use the word extreme, by the planning board that they sent the matter to you, before you first, to see if the application is even feasible before they continued their review. It is obvious the proposed project is not feasible, as it is too large, placed at too busy of an intersection, and too obtrusive to the residences off of Southgate Avenue. I previously mentioned the separation variance. The variance sought would place the gas station only 73 feet away from residential property, putting citizens off Southgate Avenue and public health at large at an increased risk from groundwater contamination, poor air quality, fire, explosion, light, and noise pollution. I believe some of the councilmen voiced this concern before we opened the public hearing. For examples, residents of Oriole Drive would be forced to contend with the glare off of the lighted canopy and look down on lit pumps all night. Worse, the only need for this variance that is evident from the application is that the applicant does not want to build elsewhere. The rear setback that's sought would bring the canopy within 25 feet of the back lot line, as opposed to 40. Now delivery trucks using the south entrance or exit will be 15 feet closer to residential properties. As this variance is only seen to be needed for the canopy, the applicant should be required to submit plans for a conforming site for comparison purposes. I know the chairman said earlier that this board does not always look at traffic impacts, but you have to make your own secret determination. So I'll just say briefly that the project would have severe detrimental traffic impacts. The applicant is proposing adding a gas station on the corner of an already busy intersection. The prior Italian restaurant and car wash had minimal impacts on traffic as compared to a gas station convenience store and had zero effect on morning rush hour. The proposed action would significantly add to rush hour congestion, causing substantial delays and increasing the risk of accidents. A traffic report should be required before the public hearing is closed. I'll leave with this final thought, and perhaps most importantly. As a result of the precedential effect of all ZBA decisions, approving this application would open the floodgates for additional gas stations to be constructed within 73 feet of residential property. Now, you would not want this project in your backyard, but if the legislative intent of the town's separation requirement is ignored, this could become a reality, not only for you, but for any citizen in the town of Poughkeepsie in the near future. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to reinforce that most of the things he talks about are planning issues, and suggest also that you bring those up to the planning board?
I assume you are.
I'll be.
Yeah, I suspect. All right, anyone else from the audience wish to address the Stewart Shop application? Okay. Oh, okay. Thank you.
I don't have much to say because I don't really have an opinion one way or the other. But the one thing that I do know, okay, is that the property, the convenience store that's currently in existence, I know for a fact that the owner is planning on retiring, so it wouldn't be competing in space, it wouldn't be competing in business. It would be taking over the business for the man who wants to retire. He tried to retire earlier, but the people who took over didn't do what he considered a good enough job. So he came out of retirement so he can do the job that he's been doing. Stewart, to the best of my knowledge, is very, very good at its convenience store function, and therefore, traffic issues aside and gas issues aside, you're not taking away business from the convenience side store. I have nothing to say about the Sunoco, which that very well could be a problem, but it's not taking away business from Nick, who's trying to retire. I needed to say that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else? All right. Okay, so, and anyone else, any other questions from the board? So I guess we have to adjourn this to the next meeting? Is that,
Yes, well, we do have to adjourn. Yeah, we do have to adjourn. As you mentioned at the beginning, the planning board hasn't yet made a secret determination. This is a coordinated review. with the planning board's lead agency, so they're not looking, we're not expecting any decision tonight. They did ask, however, for to at least hear some feedback or the questions and so forth that you've been asking so far, because this is an issue that's sort of critical to the vitality of the project.
Okay.
And we can do that as part of the deliberation after we conclude all the public hearings tonight.
Yeah, okay. So let me move that we close the public hearing, or, well.
Adjourn.
We have to adjourn. We adjourn the public hearing on item number 9 to the March
or April?
I think April's probably sufficient. It's not likely that we're going to have a determination by the planning board.
I don't think there'll be a secret determination made by the planning board at the February meeting, which
Right.
means it would probably be made at the March meeting, which would mean the best time for them to come back would be the April meeting for this board.
Okay, so we adjourn this meeting to April 13th. Okay.
Second.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we're adjourned to April. Okay, item number 10 is Premier Eastdale LLC at 50 Eastdale Avenue.
Jeff Kane. Todd Fitzgerald.
Do you each swear or affirm the testimony provided tonight is true and complete to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay, so you want to give us a quick overview?
Sure. Let me start. Sure. Just right. So, Mr. Chairman and Board, thank you. I just want to say Premier Eastdale is part of the Eastdale Village project. And I've probably spent like something like 50 hours in front of the planning board, as both Lisa and Mike can attest, talking about this project. So, that board has been very familiar with the development process here. And I promise not to spend that much time tonight. But I want to give you a little bit of an overview for you to understand what we're working to create on the site and how this sign variance really is integral to what's being proposed at Eastdale. If this is working. The Eastdale Village in a whole is some 390 apartment units and about 100,000 square feet of commercial located on both sides of Route 44 and the McDonald Heights portion of the town. Right behind is the Lutheran Care Nursing Home. Across the street over here is the old Poughkeepsie Business Park. And so this is really an area of the town that the town in 2008, when they adopted the new zoning code, labeled this as one of the town centers. So we have our own code. It's the MHC zone, which really only affects this McDonald Heights Center zone. And so I just want to say first that any precedent that's established as part of a variance here really only impacts the MHC zone. There's nothing beyond that which is impacted by any variance that you might grant. So again, the project started 2007, 2008. We started acquiring the property, and the town adopted this zoning. And we spent the last 3 years plus in approvals, including the development of an environmental impact statement. And this board was an involved agency as part of that EIS process. The architecture on the site is really designed to be a traditional Northeast architecture, and so what you have in the site is, again, Route 44, Eastdale Avenue, both north and south. We're only talking about this side of the road here. The residential component sits back off of 44. Commercial component is really down this commercial strip here that's perpendicular to 44. At the terminus of Eastdale Avenue is the Premier Medical Office Building. It's their Premier Urology is located right at the end. So this was always designed as a terminus view as you're looking down Eastdale Avenue. And the architecture in this building has a center tower feature that was designed to have the signage. So again, we spent a lot of time on both the controlling the architecture and controlling the layout of the site. There is a declaration of reciprocal easements amongst all the properties, all the owners here, which gives us, as the manager of the site, the right to create and establish certain standards for development on the site. And one of the things that we had done in conjunction with the planning board was develop commercial sign standards for all of the various owners and tenants on the site. I'd just like to, again, pass copies of this out to you for your, so you have in your record. And these commercial standards are part and parcel of what we have been working to develop to make the commercial portion of this project successful. This is not big box development. This is not strip mall development. This is not national tenant development. These are very hand-picked local establishments that are moving here, and the medical office building is really one of the keys to this development. So there's some 500 feet off of 44, and the ordinance. I think the town did a great job in developing the town's interzoning, but I don't think they envisioned. In 2007, again, the retail market was different, so I don't think they could have envisioned where we are here today with the commercial development, and the limitation of 15 square feet for a sign 400 feet off of 44 just doesn't work for the tenant. So again, working with Fast Signs and working with Todd, and he can talk about the sign a little bit, we've really looked to create a sign that is visible, that's attractive, that really does work with the overall commercial development that we're trying to develop here. I'll also say that these commercial sign standards, which I passed out, again, they represent some of what we've worked to develop, would allow, as far as from the ownership perspective, much larger signs than what's currently in the zone. Again, working with Mike Welty and his office, the proposal, we've presented this to the planning board. They liked the proposal that we were putting forth, and so this will ultimately, we believe, end up in some form as a zoning amendment change to the town. So we think that's going to be in the works, but the timing doesn't really work for this tenant. They've opened, they're seeing patients now, and they're seeing a much more elderly patient. If you've been to the urology offices, you'll understand this is a this is a clientele which needs the larger signage directing the tenant both to where Premier is off of 44, and then the second sign in the rear to where most of the parking is, directing people to how to get in the back door of the site. So as we and again as we control all of the property in the MHC zone, there's, again, the standard is that is there going to be any undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood? There won't. This sign is it's consistent with the character of this part of the zone as part of the town center zone. We don't really have an option for the size of the zone of the sign, but I do want to talk, or actually ask Todd to talk a little bit about the size and how it's measured and what that means in terms of the variance that we're asking for. So,
Sure.
Todd, you wanna-
Sure. So in falling in line with what was requested of us as far as the square footage of the sign, we were told to draw the smallest rectangular box that we could around the sign. And that, unfortunately, with the sign that you see in front of you on the front of the building, doesn't really work. And the reason why I say that is because we then come out to about 76 square feet. That would include all the dead space to the left and to the right of the sign by where the major logo sits up top. If you actually do the true square footage of the signage, you're approximately in the 40.02 square foot range. So it's substantially less than what's actually reported on this figure based upon what was asked. And as Jeff had stated, we did believe that this is more of not more of a directional sign, but it is truly a directional sign due to the clients that they are seeing. and how far it is from Route 44. Coming down, straight down that pike, you kind of really need to get a good direction of it and to be able to see it from the light. Therefore, we had actually tried to work with the contrast of it as well. So that's why we have a black lettering during the day against a white face. And then at night, it will actually glow through that black. And so you'll see a light change or a shift change in the signage. We do believe it is consistent from what we believe the neighborhood and what the commercial sign standards are going to be there or hope to be there. And I have any questions?
Okay, thank you. Christine?
Okay, so the sign in this picture is 76 point, where I just lost it
Yeah.
now. Okay,
76.4 square feet.
okay. And would you be able to show us something that's just a little bit smaller, just to see a comparison that we could see?
We could. We weren't prepared for it this evening because the actual square footage was in the 40, and we thought that was going to be I would consider from the viewpoint of the road, if we went any smaller, I don't think it would be to the benefit for the directional aspect of what was kind of needed for the facility.
Right, we really, and I think just to build on that, we really did pick the smallest sign that was going to work for this user at this location. And again, as Todd said, yes, a rectangle around this is the 76, a polygon, which really just picks up the letter, and the logo is in the 40 square feet. So it's certainly not a significant sign by any measure in this town of commercial businesses.
Yeah, there's 36 feet lost in dead space to the left and to the right of the circular logo in that square footage.
How big is the sign, the temporary sign that's there now?
The temporary sign is 4 feet by 12 feet. That is 48 square feet, which is actually 8 feet larger than the true signage that would be.
And then that does not have the logo?
It does have the logo,
Does
but
it?
the logo is shifted to the left-hand side.
Okay.
Because it wouldn't fit in the canopy the way it's at.
The other buildings along Eastdale Road or whatever the name of the road?
Eastdale Avenue.
Oh, so Eastdale Avenue. Which way were those signs face?
Well, they're not designed yet, is the number one answer. So in the process of defining the architecture, both for the architecture along the strip there, but we imagine there will be, from these buildings at the intersection of 44 and Eastdale Avenue, there will be some signage on 44, and then there will be smaller signage, we anticipate, along the face of 44. And again, for any of these buildings which may have access to the rear, I would expect some signage on the backside as well, again, for directional to get people in. But there will be both facing Eastdale Avenue and facing 44, depending on the location of the user.
And the height of the Premier Urology building, how does that compare to the buildings in front?
Two-story building, I think it's 38 to 40 feet to the top of the parapet for this. The central tower feature is a foot or two above that, so it's about 40 feet to the top of that tower feature, if I remember correctly. These buildings range from 2 to 3 stories, so they're typically going to be 32, 34. Some of the taller 3-story structures will be 44, 48 feet to the top. Again,
Excuse me,
we're
sir.
not talking about
Excuse me,
flat
sir.
roof. They're
Excuse me, sir.
mostly.
Excuse me, in the back. Excuse me, ladies, would you please let this gentleman talk? Thank you. Go ahead, sorry.
Sure. Again, not a typical flat roof buildings. These are peaked or mansard roofs. Again, to really envision a a northeast village corridor here. So
Will they be blocking the view of the sign on the urology building?
no, again, this tower feature was placed to center right in the middle of Eastdale Avenue. So this is shot right down the road from 44. That you'll see that.
Okay. All right, that's all I have.
I mean, again, if you have a three-story structure here, if you're sitting right here, yes, you're not going to be able to see the sign, but yeah, you'll be able to see it at Eastdale.
My typical question on all of these signs is that will these signs be turned off as required at the end of the business day, or 10 o'clock, whatever comes first? They're required by town code, I believe, to go off at a certain time at night if you're not open all night.
Correct. I mean, most of these medical facilities typically, they run specific hours that they would run a timer on. The unit that we would be putting in does have a timer on it. We do currently have, we're set to have a photo cell on it, but that is going to be overridden by a timer.
Okay. That's my biggest concern about some of these signs.
Yeah, yeah, I've got no problem at all with the sign in the back. I think that's absolutely essential. But in the front, the tower is actually offset from the actual entrance a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah. So are there going to be any more directional signs or whatever for the entrance?
Well, so the way this architecture works is that as you come to East Avenue, there's a drop off here, and the front door is underneath the canopy at the drop off. So that's where you drop off. The tower is just to the side on right.
Right at the entrance. Yeah,
the right of the canopy. Again, centered on Eastdale Avenue. So it's pretty clear as you get here, you can understand where the front door is. There's also directional signage at the site directing you to parking in the rear if you're not going to drop off, and there's directional signage if you have dropped off. Directional signage telling you to come back here and park as well.
Is that in place now?
That's, I don't know if all of it is, but I know some of it is in place.
The directional signage is in place now.
Okay.
It's low, it's non-lit.
Right, and,
Correct.
and I believe all those are by right, as
Correct.
long as
Yes.
they're
Yes.
below a certain, I think, 6 square feet or something like that.
Correct.
Okay. Larry?
No questions.
Tony?
No questions.
James?
No questions.
Phyllis?
Are you, because, and you pointed out yourself that if you're sitting at the light, you can't see Premier Urology as the end of the corridor until you move into that intersection. So are you going to be requesting additional signage on 44 for either Premier Urology or for any of the other businesses that are going to be in that corridor?
Certainly not for Premier. Certainly not for Premier. What you're probably used to seeing is a monument sign in a commercial strip, and that is absolutely not what we're proposing here. So this is signage on the building that describing where you are within Eastdale Village generally. We don't want that look.
So then I would only know where I was going for a business in East Hill Village if I knew what business I was going to.
Well, yes, I mean, right, specifically for
You're not
medical
gonna
use.
get
Right, you're not going to.
Passers-by.
You're not going to get drive-by to the medical use. That's exactly right.
Or to
so-
the other buildings?
Well, the other buildings you will get. Yes, this is a park, and if you'll bear with me for a second, I will. Got as good of a vision here, but a lot of the parking here is to the side and rear of the building. So there's not just parking in the front here where you're going to stop and park and go to Rossi's Deli, right? So you're going to find a spot to park. You're going to then park and walk to your user and or several users along the way here. There are restaurants here. You're going to park and go to your restaurant. So you're going to know, you're going to have an address. You're going to put it in your phone. You're going to know that you're going to 32 Eastdale Avenue. You're going to turn the corner and say, well, where is that? I've made the turn. Now I know where I need to go. And now I know that I need to, right, I'm turning the corner here. And again, I've got this strip of East Hill Avenue here. I need to go to the medical building. I get there, and the directional sign takes care. They're directing me to the parking. And the same thing with these users. There will be, as this gets finalized, there will be directional signage telling you that there's parking on the sides and rear of these buildings, because there is limited on-street parking in front, but the majority parking really is to the rear. This is designed to be very pedestrian-friendly, designed to be a street, not a parking lot. But signage, it needs signage, and that's where we're.
And that's why I'm asking about the monument signs on 44 in the future. But you're saying there are not going to be any?
What's proposed and approved is are monument signs that say Eastdale Village at both the eastbound and westbound limits of Eastdale. So that's the extent of it. We're not proposing signs that say Eastdale Village and Premier Medical, or Eastdale Village and Pizzeria Posto. That's not what's proposed.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
Sorry, Ed. Sorry.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to address the?
No, I think he does.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Are you accommodating bicycle traffic?
Are we accommodating bicycle traffic? Yes, is a short answer. A little longer answer. In working with the Department of Transportation, while 44 is intended to be a bike-friendly road, they did not want us to create a bike lane on 44 as we rebuilt it, but we do have wide lanes, and there is a protected 2-foot strip painted on the right-hand side of the road that's also meant to provide some protection for bikers on 44. And then we have bike racks certainly in the center proposed. They're not up yet because we don't have the commercial all built, but they will be throughout the site to accommodate bikes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? And anyone in the audience to address Premier Eastdale, 50 Eastdale Avenue? Okay, seeing none. Is there a motion to close the public hearing? So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, that brings us to the... Thank you. Okay, thank you, yeah. The end of our agenda. Art, is there anybody, do you want to...
I'll take it, 2 minutes.
Okay, yeah, we'll stand in recess for 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Jim, do you have an update on Carmen?
We're down here, and we're going to begin tomorrow.
No, I know.
What?
It was painful. It was painful to watch because the one was traumatized.
What's a variance?
Okay.
Is it like an exception to a rule or?
Yes, there's a zoning code that sets what's permitted and what isn't. And when the zoning rules were first adopted, this is back in around 1920, the Supreme Court said that if you're going to have those kinds of rules, you also have to have a way of people appealing in cases where the rules don't make sense, are not fair.
It's the funniest thing in the world. She's enjoying herself
No
like
matter
crazy.
what the rule
She
says,
went on a black diamond on Sunday.
we now give you permission.
She said, I fell down.
Something.
Okay, I fall down. So
the town.
I thought I was ready, but I guess I'm not. Thank you.
No, no. Once,
It's the funniest.
we act as a
Five
court of
more,
courts,
5 more weekends.
and that's why the sworn testimony.
level by the time.
Better than me, yes. She,
Say,
like the first couple of days I saw her, you know, class over here, she slid over there, she's on the
They will
ground.
then have to
Her arms in the air,
appeal
help me, help, you know.
But
But
that's
then
an
I was,
entirely different
a couple
issue.
weekends later, I'm speeding around, I see her, there she is speaking. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, we went on the gondola to the top of the mountain, like, okay. And so then they're doing this little,
Exactly.
just follow each other,
So,
smiling,
you know, he's gonna
And so
have
they're gonna follow the leader, and so the leader has made the turn too tight, so nobody can really follow her, so
has the proper
everyone's going ahead, so the leader's screaming, I'm the
beams
leader,
across
get to
the
follow
top
me,
are
everyone's
strong
yelling,
enough.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who's in front.
What we do
She
is
just put
say,
around it.
you can now, you can
It's the
locate
funniest
it
thing.
6 feet from the property line.
The first weekends, every weekend it rained, you know, like,
And in many
I finally
cases,
gave
for
up skiing
example,
because
it would be.
I was soaking wet, so I go pick her up, she's soaking wet. She have fun? Yeah. Like, okay.
To locate it, because maybe there's another structure.
So I won't make the March
Septic
field trip.
you know, and so it's the
Yeah.
zoning laws is a way of making sure that these rules aren't just mindless orders.
They interpret the.
Yeah, yeah, I mean,
I have a video of that.
in the code, let's see. Yeah, I can give you this one, so I'm not gonna need it.
Does your daughter
Here's the
Hates it.
application. And so,
And she
it goes through
White.
these different things. Does it make sense?
She's doing pretty good.
And our,
Just do the.
by law, what we have to do is
Hi.
we have to balance the benefits to the applicant to the potential harm
I know.
it might have to the neighborhood.
She's doing a lot of stuff.
So it's a balancing act.
Gabrielle.
She's doing some stuff. But I'm in Jersey.
No, she's not still up.
Exactly, so it's kind of, you know, yeah,
Took some video.
yeah,
Later,
okay, okay.
I see her.
Yeah,
right there.
that tree.
I find it very interesting.
Thank you. Have a good night.
That's you?
I don't see a lot of Utah jazz fans.
So later in the day, later in the morning, I find, there's 5
Away from home.
Later in the morning, I'm skiing down there, and I find 3 of them all by themselves.
Are
What's
you-
going on?
No, no.
Evelyn and two of her friends. Yeah, we ski past each
Except for
other.
Knicks fan.
Too slow.
Poor guy.
I know. It's not even worth talking to him.
Oh,
All right, let's do this.
well, you maybe interested, my touch with me, when I was an undergraduate, I was in many classes with Phil Jackson.
Very nice. Yeah. Wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, folks, let's move along here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Sir.
The autocrat here. Okay, we are now back in session in the deliberation phase. Item 1's been withdrawn. Item 2 has been adjourned to, what is it?
March 9th.
March 9th, okay. Item number 3, RS2 Holdings, 766 Main Street. There are 3 items here. And first, this is an unlisted action. And so we need to take care of the environmental issues. So I move that the ZBA declare itself lead agency for the purposes of the environmental review of the application at 766 Main Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I further move that the ZBA, on the basis of the information submitted by the applicant on an EAF short form, that the ZBA finds that the action proposed in item number 3 will have no significant impact on the environment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, on the variances, any discussion, any comments? People okay with it?
I'm good with it.
Yes. Okay.
Put that building to good use.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. You will also find in your packet a staff report that recommends that this be approved, and so we can use that for our findings. And finally, the county has responded to this with a note that this is of local concern. So, Christine, do you want to do this one?
Sure. I move that the board approve the request for an area variance set forth in item number 3. This decision is based on a review of the application, testimony of the applicant, testimony offered in the public hearing, and results of site visits by board members. In approving this variance, the board adopts the findings set forth in the staff report.
Second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded to approve the variances, 3 of them, I believe, at 766 Main Street. There's no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, passed 7-0. Okay, item number 4 has been adjourned to get a survey. Item number 5, Roger and Sandra Lee Townsend, 21 Peckham Road. This is a variance to allow a new garage to be built 6 feet from the side lot line where 10 feet is required. This is a type 2 action, let's see. Okay, I move that the board adopt as findings the following. Whether an undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood or a detriment to nearby properties. The board finds that the proposed new garage is to be only slightly, it's actually less, let me try that one again. Okay, the board finds that the proposed new garage will be further from the sight line than the existing garage, and the board further finds that the proposed new garage will have a smaller footprint than the existing garage, and thus no undesirable change will be produced. The board finds that the benefit sought by the applicant could not be achieved without some form of variance, and further finds that the proposed garage will require a smaller variance than the existing garage would be. The board finds that the proposed variance is not substantial. The required lot line would be, or setback would be 10 feet, and this is 6 feet. And the board finds that the proposed variance will have no adverse effect on the physical or environmental conditions of the neighborhood. And finally, the board finds that the alleged difficulty is self-created in the sense that the applicant wishes to build a new garage, but that in fact it's an improvement on the existing conditions. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so Paul, do you want to do the?
No, I recuse myself.
Paul's recused.
Hmm?
Paul
Oh,
has
you're-
recused.
That's right, okay, so Art, you're next.
I guess, okay. I move that the board approve the request for an area variance set forth in item 5. This decision is based on a review of the application, testimony of the applicant, testimony offered in the public hearing, and results of site visits by board members. In approving this variance, the board adopts as findings those set forth by the chair, and I think we had Staff reports on this one?
No.
No.
Okay, just on the chair.
Just,
So moved.
yeah. Okay, motion to adopt item number, or approve the variances in item number 5 made and seconded. If there's no further.
Was it seconded?
Second.
Thank you.
Nobody?
Now it's seconded.
Okay, good, okay. Made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And
So
one recusal.
Phyllis is voting in place of Paul, who recused.
Okay.
Okay. So that would be 7-0. Okay. Item number 6, Kathleen Gibson Ferris and David Ferris at 8 Sites Terrace. It's a variance to allow the construction of a replacement front porch to be located 13 feet from the side lot line where 20 feet is required, and 1.7 feet from the front lot line where 30 feet is required. This is also a type 2 action. Okay, so I propose his findings as follows. The board finds that there will be no undesirable change produced in the character of the neighborhood because the proposed porch is simply a replacement for a pre-existing porch that was destroyed in a motor vehicle accident. The board finds that the proposed porch is consistent with the current look of the house and the character of the neighborhood. The board finds that the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by any further method. The new porch is on exactly the same footprint as the former porch, and given the location of the house and the narrowness of the lot, any porch would require a variance. The board finds that the requested variance is substantial, particularly the distance from the front lot line, but that this simply replaces an existing structure, which was built at a time when those setbacks were not required. The board finds that the proposed variance will have no adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions of the neighborhood because it simply replaces what previously existed. And finally, the board finds that the alleged difficulty was not self-created. It was created by a severe traffic accident. Okay, so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Paul, do you want to do this one?
So I move to approve an area variance. The board approved the request for an area variance for item number 6. This is based upon a review of the application, testimony of the applicant, testimony offered in the public hearing, and results of site visits by board members. In approving this variance, the board adopts the findings set forth by the chair. So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion to approve item number 6, 8 Sites Terrace, been made and seconded. There's no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Approved 7-0. All right, item number 8, 19 Darling Drive has been adjourned. Item number
That was 7.
That was 7. It's been adjourned. Item number 8, Mental Health America of Dutchess County, has also been adjourned. Item number 9, Stewart Shops Corporation. This also is adjourned because it's still before the planning board, although the planning board asked us to have some discussion on the proposed variances. So I think what they're looking for is a kind of sense from us of whether this is in the realm of possibility. Or are the variances that would be required so severe that they couldn't be mitigated in any way by the planning board. So I invite your comments.
Well, okay.
So I think if they could resolve the locations of the fuel tanks and any, if they could assure that everyone's concerned about traffic is misplaced, then that 500-foot boundary thing I might be able to get away from.
Okay, anybody else?
The problem I have with the project is, that, I mean, the 500 feet is definitely a little bit of a concern, but I think that can be overcome. But I tell you, even when there was less traffic in there, as Umberto's and the car wash, I've always had difficulty getting in and out of that property, and to exit on the south gate, side, you have to exit, cross the lanes, and well, assuming you're going back out onto Route 9, and then you shoot across a couple lanes of traffic, you sit at the light. And Stewart's is definitely going to, create a lot more traffic in and out than Umberto's or the car wash, I think, ever did. And that's, I think, to their advantage. I mean, to their a testament to their service and how much people enjoy that kind of convenience store. And I'm a little uncomfortable with the flow of traffic in and out, and I'd really like to hear and see what kind of numbers are crunched about that.
If I could,
I think it's a dangerous corner.
If I could for just a moment, I mean, the planning board has been looking at this pretty carefully, and there is a traffic study and those things that we are working through. But to the concern about the entranceway, one of the things that they are proposing to do is move the entranceway off of Route 9 further to the west on Southgate, so that you're no longer, because you're right, with the current curb cut is right on the corner. It's something that the DOT, of course, does not want to see any longer. And so that is being moved. But most of these are concerns that we are working through with the planning board.
And really not, I'll say what Mike won't say, really not for this board. I know you're concerned about traffic, but what's before the board are the variances that are before the board.
Right.
So unless you feel that there is some site constraint that you could, move the building or do something that would alleviate the traffic concerns in some way, then it's really not something that this board should be.
Concerned.
That being said, the planning board and the applicant is working with DOT, and there may be, I think it makes sense to wait a little bit and see where the entrances actually end up when they come back, because if for no other reason, then that may necessitate other changes, or setbacks may vary slightly. The plans may change a little bit, so hopefully when the applicant comes back, we'll have a better sense of where that goes. But traffic is planning board.
And aside from that, I mean, I have Stewart's in my area, and I find them to be good neighbors. And to what Phyllis's concern was, very neat and tidy neighbors as well. It's been my experience.
No, it's good. It's good to know. You don't want a bunch of wrappers blowing on your lawn.
No, I hear you. And but
in addition to the question of the fuel tanks, which is a concrete kind of suggestion that maybe they can look at, are there other kinds of things that members of the board would?
Do we want to hear from James and Phyllis first before we
Oh,
go?
did we? I'm sorry. Oh, yeah.
No, I kind of concur with Paul on this one, so.
Okay.
It's tight. I would not, it's hard to save that community, because of their location to Route 9, has always had to deal with increased traffic and other kinds of things. And I wonder if you change the curb cuts, what will that do in terms of moving traffic back into the neighborhood more? So then you're worried about safety with kids maybe on bikes or whatnot, but.
Okay. All right, I think given what Lisa said about and Mike about the moving of the curb cut and therefore kind of what might happen with the building. So we have two variances that deal with building setbacks, especially in the rear, so, okay.
I got two questions,
Okay.
if I may.
Yeah.
We haven't closed this, right?
No, oh, no.
What's the feasibility of a smaller Stewart's shop there, number one? Because some aren't as large as this one, I believe. And the second one is my biggest fear is the proximity to the houses, giving up that 80-some-odd% variance. That does concern me.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, and then two of the variances have to do with signage, which I think is, I mean, every gas station these days is moving to these electronic signs, so I don't see that as an issue. So the remaining one seems to me the distance to the residential neighborhoods. And to me,
And I think that the code, I mean, the danger, the worry that the code is addressing is the danger of petroleum products. So I don't see it as explosion or anything like that, but I'm mostly concerned about groundwater contamination.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so that's what was my concern about where the tanks are.
Actually, that's
Right.
something that I want to look at, because other municipalities have gotten rid of this requirement as time has gone by, and Poughkeepsie brought this requirement in. So I'd actually like to look and find out what the reason was, whether it was a fear of petroleum products in the groundwater, or whether it was a traffic concern or volume. I don't really know. So I'd like to look at that to be able to advise the board that this was the concern that the town board was hoping to address with this legislation, and therefore this is what this board should consider for that.
Yeah. Well, I agree about the tanks, but I would also add a requirement for some serious screening and landscaping. I think, given the fact that, Southgate Drive goes up, and a couple of the nearest residences are, I mean, one is way up above the level. The other one is lower, and there's a view across the Southgate intersection there. But I think it needs to be screened, but I think if they can do that, I think I would be okay with it.
And then I think the only other thing that the board may want to address is there was a request from Keenan Bean or I don't remember if it was from anyone else, about putting signs on the property. I believe it was also one of the neighbors. I know the planning board has required signage on one of the applications before it recently. I don't know if this board has ever required signage for a variance.
Not that I recall, but
We've been asked to put up
Balloons.
the deli over on,
On North Grand?
yeah, the deli on the corner where they took the traffic light out, remember? He had us put up a
oh,
No,
yes.
that was just a display
it was a
sign,
display sign, it's not the same.
Not a
It's not
notice
saying
sign.
this is what's coming, okay.
Right,
no.
not a notice sign.
I don't think we've ever done a notice.
I don't recall, but, I mean, we might make an exception here in the sense that we do a mail notification to 200 feet. One of the issues here goes out to 500. And it is the gateway to a lot of people.
A major development.
So I
Who pays the cost of the mailing?
Hmm?
Who pays the cost of the mailing?
50 cents?
No, who pays
We
out?
do. I believe the town sends it out. And if there was to be a sign on the property, the town would do that as well. They have in the terms of some planning board matters. So,
Is
but I
the,
think the applicant will also make the recommendation, will make the same request to the planning board for the signage.
I apologize for not knowing this, but I know the site plan section of the code specifically provides the alternative of the planning board providing a sign notice. Is it the same language in the variance?
I was surprised to hear it because I don't remember this board considering it before that. So I would think that the board would have the ability to, I just don't know, notify more neighbors. But
Right, I just, I can think exactly where it is under site plan, where the planning board, has that discretion, which they've only used for the first time recently.
Right.
But,
And that's relatively recent discretion, correct? Or is that?
I don't know. I don't know if that was added, but.
What's the language in the sign?
Well, it's typically
indicates-
that the public hearing, there's a public hearing on an application at this location on such and such date.
Okay.
I've seen that in a couple of other towns in the area.
Yes.
And I gotta tell you, I find it to be completely useless. I find it to be extremely distracting. When you're driving, it's like, wow, this is like really important, but you're and I don't think you need another distraction at that corner. I think it would be much, if we were that concerned, that it would be much better suited to expand the mailing. And concerned citizens will come, If you build it, they will come. If you mail it, if they're concerned, they will come. But I think a large sign to that nature is going to be more of a distraction than anything else, and I don't think it's going to serve the purpose that's intended. My thought.
Okay, does anybody feel passionately about having a sign here? No, okay, fine. All right. Okay, so item 9 is adjourned to
April 13th.
April, okay. All right, item number 10. These are variances to allow a front wall sign of 76.4 square feet, where one wall sign of 15 square feet is permitted, and 2, permitting a second wall sign of 11.25 square feet on the rear of the building, where only one wall sign is allowed. This is an unlisted action, so I move that the ZBA declare itself lead agency for purposes of the environmental review of item number 10.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I further move that the ZBA find, based on the information submitted in the EAF short form, that the board finds that there will be no significant impact on the environment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. In your packet, there's a staff report recommending that these variances be approved, though suggesting we could have some discussion on the size of the front sign. How do people feel about it?
I'm good with it. I've been out there, I was out there recently, the building's way back.
Yeah, it's way back.
Consider the size of the building and the sign.
It's a pretty big building.
I'm okay with it.
At least,
Especially if they're not,
the facade is wide.
especially if they're not putting up a monument sign.
Right. I have no problem with either one of them, front or back.
Okay?
Wait,
Hold on, hold on.
so the sign that's there is 48 square feet, which I thought was too big. So, I'm not sure the value of the logo, and I think if you start manipulating how we measure signs, then it's just going to lead to people can measure signs any way they want.
Right.
So you want to get rid of the wall, whatever it is.
That would be, if that's 40 square feet, then I would be okay with that. I tell you, I think the 48 square foot one that's there now is too big. But it's
The temporary sign.
right, but it's going to be changed. It's going to be oriented differently
Right.
on the facade. So I would be okay with 40 square feet, and they can decide whether they want that logo.
Okay. Anyone?
The one that's there now, the temporary one, isn't it like hanging down low?
It's a
and
banner.
And the permanent one?
Yeah, it's just a banner.
It's just a banner.
Yeah.
That's what, that's why it looks so big, 'cause it's like,
Because it's so much closer.
Well, what's a happy medium? They want 75?
6.4.
And you're saying 40.
Well, they said that if you'd go this way and that way and do a
Right.
polygon and
We're not
cancel
doing
it.
polygon.
Well, the way the zoning administrator.
Right, no.
Right, measures
And
these,
typically,
right, is by criteria.
but the only thing that's making it larger is just where the logo is. So, I don't see,
I'm not sure we've always been really consistent on that.
we have
way of
occasionally
measuring.
varied from that, yes.
And
I thought it was typically a rectangle.
Didn't we, wasn't one of the times that we made an exception recently with the Hyatt, because of the configuration of their sign and their logo?
Yes, I believe so.
Because it covered up the air conditioning units.
But, you know, again, we're not here to, you know, change the way we measure signs, but I just, I've always found that whole concept of drawing the, you know, the rectangular around the complete exterior dimension is a little bit obscure, but that's not what we're here for, is to change that. I think the way it's presented, the sign is presented, I think the logo is proportionately, you know, to the size of the lettering, and what is it, only 30, it's 36 inches, I think it said, 38-inch round and face. I think it's going to look attractive.
The rest of the ones, when they ask for 76 square feet, can use whatever method they want to measure it. And so we'll be granting 76 square feet of signage, which will be, you know, drawn as a rectangle.
But maybe because this one is set back so far and is up so high and.
Or you could condition it on the existence of the 36 feet or whatever the testimony was of negative space that's allowing in your sign. As such that it's only, you know, 40 square feet of print.
Yeah.
Well, I know that Jeff would want us to have the zoning amendments completed before the next time they have signs, because we do see this being a repeated issue based on what the zoning allows in this district. So we've already been talking about, you know, we need to make those zoning amendments. The planning board was generally pleased with the package of signage that they're talking about. So I think in concept, everyone was on the same page in terms of what it all will look like, but clearly the code will need some sort of refinement so that we don't have to do this.
Right, and I don't think anybody is of the
Okay,
opinion that
time
15
out.
square feet is required.
There's a little glitch here, and that's we have not heard from the county.
What?
Right.
Right?
Oh.
So we can't do anything anyway.
We've sent them the application, but they have not, they still have time to respond, is that correct? Okay, so,
So then we should do the same thing we did with the other and rescind your motion to close the public hearing on the off chance that the county recommends denial, because you need to consider the county's aspect when they.
right, okay.
Well, let me ask you this, how long is their temporary sign permit good for?
1 month. And
1
then
month?
Renewable.
Renewable? Do you expect that there'll be a change in zoning?
No, not that quickly.
Okay. Well.
Okay.
Well, we haven't prepared it yet.
Well, it looks like it's already prepared, so.
Well, no, I mean, I think the sign package is more, it's illustrative, but it's not really in the form of the zoning. You know, it's still gonna need some work. We just haven't done it yet, so.
Okay, in any case, I move that we reopen the public hearing on item number 10, Premier Eastdale, 50 Eastdale Avenue.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Oops.
Since we've reopened, can we talk to the gentleman? I got a question. Can I ask the question to them, or we've reopened it?
It's okay by me.
Yeah, I guess.
What would?
Yeah.
Come on down. Let's be line down number 3. What would your feeling be if I asked you, would it be possible to move that banner to where you want to put the sign? Is that an extremely difficult thing to do, just to get us a better feel?
I think the answer is yes. It's harder than what you might think.
There's no place to tie it down, right?
Well, right. Well, and Todd went through this with the construction guys on the site, but those panels on that tower are what's materials Nichiha. It's a cementitious board, and they're clipped in space. There's only some places where you can attach into those panels without causing damage. And I think that's on most buildings not a big deal to hang the temporary banner there. This one's a little trickier because of that.
Just threw it out there.
No, let me ask you this: how important is that logo?
Well, I mean, that is their brand. It's an identifying marker on everything that they do as a corporation and a business, right down to the business cards. And even when you're in the facility, it's backed up, and that's how they actually do their waiting rooms. So I do believe that logo is pretty important to them. And I've worked with them on many other occasions. Obviously, I'm not the owner of the facility, but as an agent, I would tell you I'm quite confident they definitely would like the logo, as it's been an identifier on every other project we've been involved in.
Okay.
Okay.
So,
And
do you want to
my
ma-
apologies for the delay. It's just one of those procedures we have to live with.
So Jim, now we need a motion to adjourn this public hearing. No, item number 10, right?
Okay.
Because you just
yeah,
did a
so-
motion to
so-
reopen the
so-
public hearing, so now
right,
you
so
need.
I move item number 10. be-
Well, excuse me, is there anything you guys want else to say before we adjourn it?
Okay. So I move we adjourn item number 10 to, what is it, March
9th.
March 9th.
Second.
Is there a second?
Paul, seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
And just before you continue to answer Mike's question from a minute ago, there actually is a provision in the zoning ZBA rules that allows the ZBA to provide for any additional notice that they might choose, including posting a sign. I'm going to give you the exact. The Zoning Board of Appeals may provide that the hearing be further advertised in such manner as it deems most appropriate for full public consideration of the application, including the prominent placement of one or more signs on the premises that is the subject of the application, notifying interested persons that the application is under consideration by the board. So now we know for future.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, one more item. We have a request from the planning board that they serve as lead agency for the environmental review of an amendment. I guess
Yeah, you
I'll
want me
let
to quickly explain?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's one of the pieces of property in the front along Route 44 is known as the Ortega House. It was a residence previously. It was purchased by the developers of Eastdale Village. And it's a separate lot. It's not part of the initial site plan that was approved. They have since been thinking about how they want to incorporate it into Eastdale Village and have come back to basically add it to the project area. And so it makes very small change in terms of the number of units that would be possible on the site and those types of things. So it requires the planning board to take a full look at the environmental impacts, making sure it's consistent with the EIS and the findings that were adopted. But the planning board was lead agency for this project in the past, and it would make sense that they would be again.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, so if there's no objection, I move that the ZBA approve the request from the planning board that they serve as lead agency for the environmental review of the amendments to the Eastdale plan.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's the end of the agenda. I've got a couple of things. One is, this is James LaRosa's last meeting as a member of the zoning board, so thank you for your service.
Pleasure sharing with you guys. Good luck with some of these future cases.
Okay. All right, and I'm also going to announce that this is my last meeting at the ZBA. I will be turning in my letter of resignation or retirement, as I like to think of it, tomorrow. And I've been told that the town board at its next meeting, which I think is the 19th, has a successor that will be appointed. Since they haven't acted yet, I'm not going to say anything more. So I just want to thank everybody for your help and your friendship during this time, and particularly to Mike and Neil Wilson, to Sonia and to Sandy Lane, but also to my better half there for her patience and support and a lot of late meals.
Thank you. Thank you for chairing for so long.
Thank
You're very welcome. And I just want to leave you with two sayings that I picked up along the way. And one is from Neil Wilson during a particularly strenuous meeting. I don't remember which one, but I think all of you know what I mean. Who about halfway through an endless line of people complaining, leaned over to me and said, "This is why they invented single malt scotch." And that has gotten me through a lot of, okay.
The saying or the scotch?
Yeah. Okay. The other is from Betty Bombo, who, in the middle of wrangles among ourselves, would remind us, that's why there are 7 of us. And I think that's very good advice, and I've learned that and a lot of other things from all of you, so thank you.
Does this
Okay.
mean you won't do a ride-along for navigating anymore?
You're on your own. Okay.
Are you going to be available for a dinner or a lunch or something?
I'm not moving anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or scotch?
Yeah. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.